Today, we're going to recap a manhwa called The Night King Who Returned with a God. Chapter 1. The story begins with our protagonist from Earth named Leon, being reincarnated as a child in a fantasy world. He was born into a rich household with an extremely beautiful mother. 3 years later, he saw the world outside his window for the first time, and it was incredibly huge. He found out that his family was part of the Grand Duchy, which was widely known within the kingdom, and he was the son of the Grand Duke Dragonia in the kingdom of Lionheart. 8 years later, he started learning swordmanship as a future knight of the kingdom. He was trained by Sir Gothic, a holy knight from the palace. 14 years later, he realized that it was extremely hard to qualify to become a holy knight. You had to complete quests by training and become a knight of the kingdom through experience and honor. You also need to be chosen by the Holy Grail and drink the holy water. Furthermore, as a son of Dragonia, he needs to learn everything there was to know about becoming a Grand Duke on top of training to become a holy knight. He doesn't believe in any religion, but he prays that if there really is a God, he wants to ask them to save him. After 16 years, he roamed the world in order to be acknowledged by the goddess. There were countless opportunities for him to wield his sword because the kingdom had too many enemies. In 20 years, he met the goddess. He was provided with a quest to prove his honor and faith, and after slaving away for many years, he became a holy knight. He slayed orcs, tore apart goblins, and slashed away the evil cult. He massacred 700,000 orcs and eventually became a war knight of the kingdom. 35 years later, the living saint and demigod, Argon Majesty Lionheart, passed away. It happened when he was battling the archdemon summoned by the Empire. Amidst all that chaos, the goddess descended upon them and selected him. He transplanted the sacred treasure called the Lionheart from the goddess and vowed to protect the Holy Grail. And that is how he became the Grand Duke Dragonia and the king of the Lionheart Kingdom. In 80 years, many things happened in that time. There were 3 great wars with orcs, goblins who evolved into an archdemon, and a lot of troubles created by the Empire. 96 years later, the foolish emperor crossed the line by committing suicide along with 3 million citizens from the capital to summon the Lord of Chaos. Leon eventually gathered the knights and took out the holy sword that wasn't yet dry with the grease from the orcs from last year. 121 years later, the world was being destroyed even though he tried his best. He tried to defeat all the evil with all of the holiness that was on the continent, but he couldn't stop them. That winter, they fought the final battle with billions of devils who filled the earth. The civilian knights died with honor along with the glorious knights, and the chosen agent of all gods and all holy temples, he alone defeated the demons until the end. After 256 years, he destroyed the last remaining demon gate. There was nowhere left for the demons to escape to, so he eliminated all those who were stuck with him. In his 300 years, he came across the Earthlings and defeated an archdemon in one slash. He then introduces himself as Leon Dragonia Lionheart. Chapter 2. An unidentifiable black gate opened up in the middle of Seoul. The World Hunter Association requested the nation's large guilds to participate in the raid, but the requests were denied due to the fact that the difficulty of the gate was unknown. In the end, the government ordered the Korean Hunter Association to go in first, which was basically an execution order. That's how they met the guy who killed the archdemon. This is Korean Hunter Association's associate manager, Han Hari. No one is believing her story. It was a black rank demon gate with even the great devil. Coming back alive without the help of other guild is already a miracle, but to have cleared it was more unbelievable. All because of one man. There were occasional people who managed to survive in the gate realm. The gates that have appeared all around the world over the last 30 years share similarities. Sometimes, survivors manage to come back to Earth while keeping the unbelievable strength they've earned in the demon realm. That's why the government tried their best to cater to the needs of the survivors and set plans to scout them. They knew that Leon was incredibly strong because he killed the monster that even the most skilled S-rank hunters are afraid of. He didn't just kill it, but he completely overpowered it. Leon was an orphan who labored in his 20s and then died of exhaustion. After that, he was reincarnated into another world and became the king and knight of a kingdom for more than a century. He hunted demons for a total of 300 years, so he was relieved to even have some memories of this place. He thought that it won't be beneficial for him to reveal the fact that he used to be an earthling, so he told them to refer him as their majesty. They started to interview Leon about what happened inside the Black Gate. Because of that, he ordered the bald guy to be his temporary secretary and shall bestow upon him the privilege of recording this glorious incident. He then asked if there are some etiquette rules for how they treat royalty here. He also said that he wants to know about this world, thinking that he needs to figure out what happened to Earth while he was gone. So the bald guy told him everything about the nightmare that suddenly began 30 years ago. Leon realizes that it's a bit different from his world, that demons invaded like mushrooms after a rain. But this place has gates with themes and quests, as if to train the humans through trials. Few moments later, his secretary delivered him a meal called Sio Laong Tang. When he was a laborer on Earth, it was like a soul food for him. Basically, it's known as the soul food of peasants. He suddenly got mad and shouted, "How dare you serve a royal with a peasant's dish? Is this how your kingdom treats another kingdom's royal?" Leon Dragonia Lionheart, royal from the otherworld, proxy for the gods, guardian of the Holy Grail and the owner of the Holy Blade and the Holy Spear. The arch-nemesis of the demons who have killed millions of demons. The incarnation of the history of the 300-year war itself. And lastly, a returner who used to be an earthling. What he thought when he returned to Earth after 300 years was this: enlightening the foolish peasants is the duty of the royal family. Despite having returned to Earth, he was still a Night King. Chapter 3. Leon is eating a T-bone steak and red wine that was made in 1993. After seeing Leon's behavior, Jinsu asked Hari to go first. Hari then said that she can't use historical language. But still, Jinsu thinks that Leon is a little more interested in her. She got complimented saying that she were brave, so he at least won't kick her out. Hari opened the door and said sorry to Her Majesty for interrupting him while he's eating. Leon remembers her as that swordsman from before, so he lets her sit. Hari asked Leon if the meal to his liking. Leon said that it wasn't bad. He could feel the sincerity and finesse of the chief. He explained that the reason why he was giving them all a hard time was because of their attitude towards the king. He said that when greeting royalty from a foreign nation, they should be treated as such. Hari then apologized due to her lack of knowledge. Leon talked to her that he learned about the wicked things that have appeared on this earth. Hari only had one mission. It was to get him to join the Hunter Association. The motive of the 21st century intelligence war is to scout survivors. No matter how much support is promised, they need to stop them from joining another country. Leon understands that as long as he is settled in this world, he have a duty to go to the battlefield. If he is an honorable knight, it's only right that he should fight. However, he said that a king cannot be a soldier for another nation's military, so he will create a new knight's order in this world. Hari could only nod. Jinsu told Hari that the higher-ups will give as much support as possible. They didn't thought that the association affiliated to the government needs to bow down to Leon. Hari thinks that this is all because of those bastards from the large guilds who flaunt their money and power. An urgent message came. There was a dungeon break at the Honam Plains where the granary is located. If that happens, the demonic element will bring the production of food to a halt. Leon heard and got a grasp on everything that was said beyond the door. If a dungeon break happens, the ground becomes infected and crops don't grow. That means that this place doesn't have it, so Leon got in contact with the goddess Demera. The guildmaster of the Phoenix Guild, Li Yongwen, was confronted by Hari and Jinsu. They knew that he purposely let the dungeon break happen because they didn't accept their request for a tax exemption for the profits of Gates. The Phoenix Guild has been continuously requesting a tax exemption for the profits of Gates. They gained a lot of profit from the monsters, and they want to be exempt from paying a tax of 1 trillion. Hari told Li Yongwen that they need to close the gate right now because as of today, it's 1 week. They can't leave it like that. Yongwen said that their guild members are gravely injured, so it will be difficult to raid in this state. He said that they will try to do it by tomorrow, but he doesn't know what will happen. Hari got mad that he doesn't have an ounce of patriotism in him. She knows that Yongwen know what will happen if the Honam Plains get infected. Li Yongwen told Hari that in this world, justice is money and power. Leon arrived on the scene and said that Yongwen is quite shallow and old-fashioned. While Yongwen tried to ask Leon about his name, he told him to be quiet. How dare a person as lowly as you speak? Yongwen got insulted, but Hari stops him and told him that Leon is a survivor. Yongwen apologizes and introduces himself. Leon asked Jinsu and Hari about the details of the gate. Hari then explained that when a dungeon break happens, a large amount of demonic element comes out and infects the land, which stops the crops from growing. The solution is to purify the infection and to clear the dungeon as soon as possible. Leon told Hari to call their forces, because tomorrow, the king will personally step in and get rid of those small fry. However, before that, he needs to receive permission from this nation's king. He thinks that there is a legitimate process and rules for everything. In the end, they asked the president to come. Leon requested two things. One of them was this straw doll, and the other thing is that the people who made the doll were to be women who had given birth. A doll-making competition opened up in the middle of the plains. After touching so many dolls, the person who caught Leon's eye was an old married woman. He took the old woman's doll and put it on a table. He summoned the Holy Grail and offered the doll to the mother of this abundant land. The cup is slowly filling up with water on its own, and the water droplets are going inside the doll. The doll stood on its own. It's Demera, the god of life and abundance. Chapter 4. Leon formally greets Demera, the divine being ruling over life and fertility. He explained that this land is invaded by evil and is contaminated. Demera asked him of what he plans on doing now. He said that he will teach the ignorant and lead them to the right path, until a new pantheon arises on this earth. The free citizens of this earth are suffering because of an evil energy, so he asked Demera to please heal and purify this land. Since this world's earth is not her body, she will spread her divinity here and substitute this thirsty earth with her flesh. Then everything that walks on this earth will be Leon's ally. Leon told everyone to watch and learn. He showed them the world that is blessed with divinity. This fertile earth is the proof of an eternal promise. Yongwen can't believe what's happening and warned everyone to not be fooled, as crops that are grown using magic are poisonous. A mad Leon stared at him and said that these are crops blessed with divinity, so how dare you judge it as poison? Yongwans knew that his plan was about to be ruined and he won't let it happen. He plans to frame Leon as a fraud. He said that they still need to prove it, so he provide an appraiser. While checking the rice, the appraiser was shocked to see that all this rice is rare rank. Tier 3 diseases and even cancer will be cured with repeated consumption of this rice. Jinsu then asked someone to get a pot from the chief's house and cooked some of it. After eating the rice, he realized that this is basically a reinforcer. Rice made from the blessed rice plant can boost stamina and mana recovery rate each minute for a total of 8 hours. Hari also got a big news. She was curious and ate a bug, and she got a buff. Jinsu realizes that if the blessing is really all over the land, then it's not weird if all living beings are also blessed. The Hunter Association's raiding team's motivation has increased and started to catch bugs, as many as they can. Since the goddess Demera have done what she needed to do, she said her goodbye to Leon and lectured him to make sure to feed himself. Now that the soldiers are full, they are ready to go into the gate. The Phoenix Guild were so worried because of what happened. If it weren't for Leon, the government wouldn't have had a choice but to listen to their request. Yongwen told his members to not worry because this gate is already somewhat raided. The middle was a bit difficult, and there's only one A-rank Hari. He thinks that Leon is probably a blessing-type buffer, and he bet that he's useless when it comes to combat. Meaning, he is certain that they will definitely fail. Inside the gate is a monster that cannot be defeated using ordinary means. Chapter 5. Leon and a group of hunters including Jinsu and Hari entered the gate. Most of the gates will close if they clear the quest or defeat the boss. He likes the idea of having a duel with the boss, and Hari was unable to tell him that they usually gang up on them. They told him that they've tried clearing the dungeons before, but seems like there's a lot monsters than he thought. Hari explained to him that while the number of monsters usually decreases as you defeat them, in the case of skeletons or zombies, as long as the boss is still alive, they will infinitely respawn. Leon now understands that things will only end if they defeat the boss. A dungeon break has begun. The commander knight, Dullahan, is advancing with his troops and they need to defeat it within 3 hours. The hunters started to feel a heavy pressure from the presence of their enemies. Those with a sniping skill will take care of the long-ranged mobs and anyone with a shield will stop them from advancing. The fight has begun. They are not too much for a B-rank tank like Jinsu to handle, but the skeletons have advanced spells. He tried to grab their attention and one of the skeleton mage throws an attack at him. Jinsu said that he's fine and brag about his expensive gear that protects him. Unexpectedly, the monster boss Dullahan came and hit him with a strong swing of his sword that slammed Jinsu on the wall. The worried Hari asked Leon to help them, but Leon said that a king should never join a small battle like this. He advised Hari to look for ways to build her honor and not try to force him help on taking down those bones, because it's rude to the goddess too. Hari can't believe what she just heard, but she doesn't have time to waste. She realizes that this man has no intention to help and doesn't seem like he has any interest in anything except the boss Dullahan. So Hari stepped in and said that she will take care of the boss. She started to dash and attack Dullahan, but her attack was easily blocked. Dullahan threw its head to block Hari's view and then sent a punch on her. Hari managed to separate Dullahan from the rest, just like what she is planning to do. Dullahan tried to attack Hari with his sword, but the range of Hari's skills are just too large. As she were trying to finish it, Dullahan managed to block her attack with the blunt of the blade. Hari lost her balance and was almost cut by Dullahan's sword, but Leon suddenly clapped his hand, apologized to Dullahan for mistaking a great knight like him as a mere undead. He then said that as the king of the Lionheart, he will give Dullahan the right to challenge him. He wants to end this fight with a noble duel between two knights. Everyone was surprised to hear what Leon said, and can't even believe that it worked. Chapter 6. Dullahan accepts Leon's duel invitation and was told to let down his neck because Leon was sure that he used double-wielded swordmanship. Hari reminded Leon that the Dullahan won't die unless he beheads it, but Leon said that it doesn't matter, because what decides the winner is the knight's honor. After the talk, Leon introduces himself and sanctions the honorable knight for a challenge. The first one to attack is Dullahan. Leon easily blocked his attack and slid his sword. Then he points out his sword to Dullahan's face. That's 1 point for Leon. Dullahan steps back and is preparing for a strong attack, but his steps are too light for Leon. Everyone was shocked and thought that Leon took the hit, but Hari was the only one who really understood what happened in the battle. He changed the weight balance by tying in a sword guard the moment the attack touched the blade. On top of that, he managed a crosscut that no one would even dare to try. That's another point for Leon. It had been a while since Dullahan came across a knight who treated him like a knight and properly requested a duel. It was like a trick to avoid the difficult situation. That straight posture and the look of veteran who has experienced countless battles. The starry eyes that chase honor and eminence. Dullahan tried his best, but he was overpowered by Leon. He thinks of Leon as the pinnacle of an honorable knight. The king of knights, to be revered and challenged. He doesn't want to use his powers of necromancy, and he wants to fight this man countless times as a knight. Properly the knightly way, without necromancy and solely with his blade against Leon. Like how he used to duel against famed knights when he used to wander around the world with honor. As he had forgotten to do. Leon have returned to him the glorious days of the past. He lost 10 times to Leon and finally, he picked up his head and offered it to him. He thinks that there can be no greater joy if he can end his cursed journey like this. Leon got overjoyed that Dullahan regained his honor and prayed for him. Let there be light. Jinsu and Hari can't believe that the battle really ended up with a duel. Hari is curious why Leon didn't use that skill earlier. Leon said that if he did, then that honorable knight would have met his end as a necromancer. A knight lives for honor. Honor comes from actions, and actions come from will. The Dullahan received what he deserved as a noble knight. After explaining, Leon went to fetch his loot. The Dullahan's greatsword, cape and the necromancer's pearl that got tremendous mana. Jinsu thinks that this will sell for so much money, but it's a garbage for Leon. He said that this kind of item only causes chaos. Final results. Dullahan's cape, Dullahan's greatsword, mana stones, and etc. Honam Gate cleared. Chapter 7. It had been 4 days since Leon's return to Earth, and in that short span, a lot had transpired. Consequently, Han Hari found it challenging to get adequate rest and felt thoroughly exhausted. To begin, they encountered a minor issue related to taxes, as they attempted to inquire about Leon's tax payments. Leon promptly informed her that a true king doesn't concern himself with counting coins, leaving such matters to those people beneath him. They attracted new supporters for their mission to bring divine power into the land. Leon reassured them that, as followers of the goddess, they need not fret about going hungry. His guild would provide welfare, cover living expenses, and ensure an ample supply of food and other necessities. However, a significant issue arose regarding Leon's residence. Leon expressed his discontent, likening the place they had assigned him to a battlefield. He was dissatisfied with the absence of any artwork in the location. In his frustration, he insisted on having a luxurious bed, a team of ever-ready servants, and a piece of artwork that he could admire at his leisure. Consequently, Han Hari was tasked with a challenging mission, searching for a 5-star hotel until 2 a.m. in the morning to secure a suite room. They eventually settled for a room that had either a painting or a ceramic piece on display. This brings us to the present moment. Han Hari entered Leon's room and inquired about his well-being. It was time for breakfast, so she brought him some food. Leon, in turn, asked her if she had already eaten, to which Hari replied, "Not yet." Leon offered her some advice, suggesting that she should eat whenever the opportunity arises and avoid skipping meals. While she was lost in thought, Leon invited her to take a seat. This made the usually reserved Han Hari wonder if Leon was planning to share his meal with her. As she sat down, a sense of happiness washed over her, but then Leon asked her, "What are you doing?" He inquired about her actions, specifically questioning why she wasn't making sure the ribs were more manageable to eat. Han Hari initially believed that Leon intended to share his meal. However, Leon swiftly reminded her, in which country do kings and peasants dine together? The Hunter Association had made a decision to offer Leon support funding and resettlement assistance. They relocated Leon to a location near the Hunter Association. As they entered the hotel, someone unexpectedly recognized Han Hari, the assistant manager of the Hunter Association. Hari was taken aback because this information was meant to be a secret. The person, pretending it was a mere coincidence, introduced himself as Park Jong-chan, the director of Dujing's Food of the Future, representing the Dujing Group. The Dujing Group was renowned as one of the top 3 chaebol groups in the nation. Park Jong-chan seemed to recognize Leon as the famous survivor. It was at that moment that Han Hari realized this encounter was not a coincidence. The Dujing Group had prior knowledge of their arrival. Park Jong-chan extended his hand to shake Leon's and greeted him with, "Nice to meet you, Leon Dragonia Lionheart." However, Leon responded unexpectedly, saying, "A mere merchant wants a handshake?" Hari then escorted Leon to his new room, the place the association would be providing for him for a year. Information about survivors was highly confidential, and in a situation where Park Jong-chan's intentions were unclear, it was reassuring to her that Leon had ignored the director. Han Hari deduced that it must be related to the blessed rice from the Honam Plains, which had gained significant attention. Park Jong-chan was clearly upset by Leon's perceived arrogance. He questioned the doctor about the authenticity of the raya's effects, to which the doctor affirmed their certainty. Park Jong-chan's assistant explained that they had visited the owner of the rice field to gather more information about the rice. However, something remarkable had occurred. A dying dog had suddenly recovered, and individuals with chronic inflammation and sinus infections experienced immediate improvements after consuming the rice. Various minor and major diseases throughout the village had been cured following rice consumption. Although they lacked data from human testing, the raya's effects were essentially already proven based on these real-world outcomes. Their strong desire to acquire the boundless rice motivated Park Jong-chan to plan another visit to Leon. Jong-chan contemplated using culture shock to overpower Leon and change his perspective. Chapter 8. Upon his return to Earth, Leon had established 3 primary objectives. His first goal was to propagate faith in divinity. To harness divine power, a new faith was essential, requiring a larger number of adherents to believe in the new god. Secondly, Leon aimed to restructure the Knights Templar. In this world, an organization of warriors who wield divine power was conspicuously absent. Utilizing divine power, they were meant to instill fear in the hearts of malevolence. Lastly, Leon's ultimate goal was to eradicate all wickedness thriving in the land, reclaim divine power, and resurrect the Knights Templar. Hari informed Leon that someone had officially requested a meeting. The individual seeking the meeting turned out to be Park Jong-chan, the director of Doujin Group, who expressed his gratitude for the opportunity. Jong-chan was not thrilled about the idea of bowing down to Leon but was willing to do so for the sake of business. This time, he came bearing a small gift, which he encouraged Leon to accept. Jong-chan believed that Leon would be genuinely surprised when he discovered what the gift was, a top-tier luxury item that an individual from Leon's background could only dream of. Leon graciously accepted Jong-chan's gift, and this surprised Jong-chan due to Leon's demeanor, which suggested that he was doing Jong-chan a favor by accepting it. Curious, Jong-chan inquired why Leon didn't check what the gift was, expressing confidence that Leon would appreciate it. Leon opted not to delve into etiquette explanations with Jong-chan and requested that Hari open the gift. Hari unwrapped Jong-chan's gift and was astounded by its contents. Jong-chan explained that these were the most elite weapons held in high regard by their group and invited Leon to select whichever one he preferred. Jong-chan mentioned that he had heard about Leon's plans to work as a hunter and believed that these weapons would be of great assistance to him. Hari found it difficult to believe that Jong-chan was simply giving away unique rank weapons from the Doujin Group, top-tier equipment that couldn't even be purchased with money. Leon's response surprised both Jong-chan and Hari. Leon questioned, "Where am I supposed to use these low-rank weapons?" This statement left them baffled, and Hari asked Leon, "Your Majesty, what do you mean, low rank?" Leon elaborated, "How can you create a high-quality sword without harnessing the aura of the stars or receiving a holy blessing? Do you only employ weapons for hunting beasts?" Jong-chan couldn't quite grasp what Leon was getting at. Leon criticized Jong-chan as an unfaithful merchant, but Jong-chan attempted to clarify the situation. He remarked that the weapon was only suitable for dispatching chickens and cows, but he agreed to give it a try. The group was taken aback when Leon conjured an old sword out of thin air. Despite his confidence, Jong-chan sensed that Leon was underestimating the weapon and expressed his desire to witness what the sword could achieve. Jong-chan turned to assistant manager Hari and inquired if she would like to test one of the weapons. She chose the sword she had admired for 4 years, the masterpiece of the master craftsman Park Jin-chul, known as Dawn. Hari inquired whether she could genuinely use the sword, to which Leon responded, "Why do you need permission to swing a toy around?" Hari prepared to test the sword by striking it against Leon's weapon. She stepped back and put all her strength into the blow, but to her dismay, the cherished sword easily broke. Leon expressed his disappointment, deeming it even worse than he had anticipated, and considered it a waste of time. Consequently, he announced that he would abbreviate the meeting, allowing them just 3 minutes. Jong-chan remained in a state of shock over the unexpected breaking of Doujin Group's most potent weapon, Dawn. However, due to their limited time, he swiftly transitioned to the primary purpose of the meeting, securing patent rights over the rice grains. He emphasized that they were willing to pay for it and mentioned their estimated value of 180 billion won. Still, Jong-chan believed that the grains were worth significantly more, especially considering its potential to cure cancer. Jong-chan was convinced that Leon had no concept of the value of 180 billion won and anticipated that Leon would be astonished once he realized its worth. However, Leon sought clarification, asking if Jong-chan intended to purchase the rice with money. Jong-chan believed he had the upper hand and confirmed that this was indeed the case. He stated that Leon would need to sign a contract granting Doujin Group a monopoly over the rice and suggested that he could raise the price a bit. But before he could finish, Leon sharply responded, "You imbecile merchant. You dare insult divinity?" Chapter 9. Jong-chan and his comrades felt a frightening pressure emanating from Leon, as if they were about to be devoured by a massive lion. Leon inquired, "How ignorant and uncivilized can you possibly be?" He lectured Jong-chan that the crop he was discussing had originated from the land blessed by the revered goddess, Demera. This blessing had been bestowed as a reward for the farmers who toiled and endured hardship in the fields. It was not something that could be acquired with mere money. Instead, it demanded a thankful heart and unwavering faith as its currency. Leon referred to them as lowly creatures who were solely driven by the pursuit of profits, often resorting to deception in the process. He then inquired of Jong-chan why he desired to obtain divine products from a goddess in whom he did not believe. Hari inquired of Leon whether it was acceptable to simply let Jong-chan depart in that manner. She acknowledged that Jong-chan might be viewed as a lowly merchant from Leon's standpoint, but he still held significant influence. In response, Leon stated that it wasn't even worth concerning himself with. Leon then inquired of Hari whether what he had requested was prepared. Hari responded affirmatively, mentioning that the association had made the call. She further inquired if Leon intended to take the test himself. Leon explained that he intended to personally search for valuable soldiers and would be the one assessing them. At the Hunters Association building, unaffiliated D-rank hunter, Gu Daesung, and team manager, Kim Do-han, encountered each other after a lengthy separation. Both of them had returned for a retest. Gu Daesung contemplated the proposition, pondering the fact that even those without exceptional talent managed to reach C rank, while he had remained at the D rank for 10 years. Kim Do-han was taken aback upon encountering a foreigner. Daesung speculated that the person might be European, but Do-han surmised he was a foreign laborer. However, the foreigner appeared rather royal in his looks. Leon had not come in search of formidable individuals, but he couldn't find a single person he deemed suitable to be his soldier. In the first place, those who participate in these tests are primarily low-ranking hunters or individuals who have recently awakened to their abilities. Consequently, his initial expectations weren't particularly high. Leon received his turn and was summoned to enter interview room. Upon entering, he was inquired if he was Leon Dragonia Lionheart. In response, Leon arrogantly retorted, "Call me Your Majesty, peasant." The attendant complied, addressing him as Your Majesty, and proceeded to request that Leon place his hand on the measuring device for the test. Leon disdainfully referred to the examiner as a fool, and questioned, "How dare a mere machine gauge a knight's strength? Only honorable knights and gods can appraise the power of knights." Leon stated that he had come in search of valuable soldiers but found the judges to be severely lacking. He expressed his dissatisfaction, mentioning that he didn't find anyone he liked, and requested information about the next test. The examiner informed Leon about a test at the gate. Inside the Soul Gate, most of the gates that had already been cleared were typically closed, with only a few remaining open for circumstances like the current test. This particular Soul Gate was one such example. Daesung noticed that the strength measurement for this year didn't seem significantly different from the previous year. He realized that to achieve a better result, he would need to perform well during this test. A young female participant marveled at the gate's interior, while her brother advised her to turn off her phone. Gu Daesung felt concerned upon seeing two newcomers. Among the participants, there was also an elderly man who appeared to be over 60. Daesung assumed that they were all either D-rank or C-rank hunters. Additionally, he observed the foreign laborer he had encountered earlier in the lobby, surmising that the foreigner was likely a newbie given his young age. Daesung pondered whether this test would proceed smoothly, as, apart from the one older man, the rest appeared to be inexperienced newcomers. Chapter 10. Gu Daesung proposed that everyone should introduce themselves before discussing their positions. He began by introducing himself, stating that he had been a hunter for 10 years and held the position of a warrior with a primary role as a dealer. The next person, a guy named Shin Tae-hoon, introduced himself as a newcomer who had awakened just this year. He mentioned that he wielded a shield and a spear. Then, the girl, who turned out to be Tae-hoon's sister, Shin Na-yeon, introduced herself. She primarily used daggers and had been learning to use a bow and arrow. An anxious Daesung began to realize that both Tae-hoon and Na-yeon were indeed beginners who hadn't even settled on their main weapons yet. Daesung turned his attention to the old man, Oh Gangtae, who had been participating for 5 years and had awakened, although he recently resigned from active hunting. He mentioned that his weapon of choice was a gauntlet. This revelation left Daesung somewhat puzzled, as it indicated the old man might have relatively limited experience for someone of his age. Lastly, Daesung approached the foreign laborer and inquired if he could speak Korean. In response, Leon stated that he did not engage in combat, explaining, "One cannot use a sword made for slaying dragons to kill chickens." Daesung found himself pondering where this foreigner had learned to speak Korean. For this test, the objective was to hunt 50 kobolds. The examiner mentioned that occasionally, a gnoll would appear in the field, and if it was considered too dangerous, he would intervene. As a result, there was no need to worry, and they could focus on showcasing their skills. Daesung was becoming increasingly concerned that the test might not go well at the current rate. He informed the group that he knew of a location suitable for hunting. Given his greater experience, they decided to follow his lead. Daesung proposed that they hunt the cave-dwelling kobolds, utilizing nearby grass or leaves to create smoke in the caves and making it easier to eliminate them. Daesung had dedicated himself to studying various tutorials and raiding techniques, all the while dreaming of the day when he could enter a high-rank gate. However, the only gate he had ventured into was the current one. He aspired to be promoted this time, as he was determined not to remain in the D rank any longer. Up ahead, Shin Taehoon spotted some kobolds. Daesung offered advice, instructing Taehoon to use his shield to block their attacks. Despite their frightening appearance, the kobolds were not particularly clever. Taehoon remarked that it was easy to block them when they charged in a straight line at him. However, Nayeon warned her brother to watch out in front of him. One of the kobolds attempted to leap onto Taehoon, catching him off guard. Daesung emphasized the importance of not letting his guard down, as these creatures may be weak, but they were quite fast. The old man Gangtae took charge, dealing with the remaining kobolds. With only a few left, they pressed on. Daesung expressed his approval, saying, "Good job, everyone," and felt a growing sense of confidence. He had been anxious initially but now thought that this party wasn't so bad, except for one person. They questioned the foreigner about his lack of participation during the fight, pointing out that he had simply watched from the sidelines, and asked if it was acceptable for him to do so. The examiner assured them that he would consider it when grading the test, putting their concerns to rest. As they ventured deeper into the forest, they eventually located the cave. They gathered some dried sticks near the cave's entrance, with Daesung holding the lighter. At that moment, the foreigner questioned him, "Do you really think that's the best you can do?" Daesung felt insulted by the sudden comment and retorted, "What are you saying all of a sudden when you haven't helped at all?" Daesung elaborated, stating that he had employed this method 3 times in the past, and it had been successful on each occasion. However, Leon went on to question Daesung, "How can you rely on experience when you have so little of it?" Feeling insulted, Daesung retorted, "Whatever. You're younger than me. Experience my ass." Daesung proceeded to ignite a fire with the dried sticks and instructed everyone to gather around. As the kobolds began to emerge, Daesung's group quickly responded by firing arrows and hurling stones at the approaching creatures. Daesung felt a sense of vindication, convinced that his method was proving effective. They continued to eliminate the kobolds using long-range attacks, and Daesung contemplated the idea of luring a group of kobolds here to confront and defeat a few gnolls out on the plains. Suddenly, their concentration was interrupted by a menacing sound, a growl from a gnoll captain. The gnoll captain was the gate's boss and held a rank above C. Daesung couldn't help but wonder why it had chosen this moment to appear. Chapter 11. Daesung suggested that he and Taehoon should take on the gnoll captain, while Nayeon and the old man could deal with the kobolds in the cave. The gnoll captain began by targeting Taehoon, leaving him feeling extremely intimidated and unable to move. The force of the gnoll captain's attack knocked Taehoon to the ground, causing his shield to be forcibly torn from his grasp. Daesung felt deeply concerned for Taehoon and couldn't understand why the examiner hadn't intervened, especially after promising to step in if the situation became perilous. Frustrated by the examiner's inaction, Daesung picked up Taehoon's shield and stepped in to assist him by blocking the monster's attack. He successfully thwarted the first attack, but he remained unsure about his ability to block a potential second strike. However, a sudden voice broke the tension, saying, "Well, not too bad." It was a foreigner who effortlessly halted the monster's attack with just 2 fingers. The foreigner encouraged Daesung to make another attempt. Completely astonished, Daesung couldn't believe his eyes as the foreigner had effortlessly stopped the gnoll captain's attack using only his fingers. Leon instructed Daesung to raise his shield and confront the gnoll once more, reminding him that he had done it once already, so he should be able to do it again. However, Daesung, bewildered by the dire circumstances, questioned Leon about the danger they all faced. This provoked Leon's anger, and he shouted, "You impertinent peasant! How dare you defy me after witnessing the glory of the King of the Lionheart's guidance?" Leon then reiterated his advice, instructing Daesung to raise his shield, block, and counterattack. The gnoll soon launched another attack. Daesung struggled to maintain his defense, feeling the immense strength of the monster. Leon reprimanded Daesung, saying, "Fool! You bear a shield, so why rely solely on strength?" He advised Daesung not to confront a stronger opponent head-on but instead to deflect the attacks and search for an opening, emphasizing that he couldn't win the battle through defense alone. He urged Daesung to use his intellect and strategize, but Daesung found it challenging to discern exactly what he should do. Leon swiftly kicked Daesung's leg and sternly instructed him not to avert his gaze from the opponent. This jolted Daesung into realizing that he would have met a grim fate if he had attempted to block that attack head-on. Leon continued to press him, emphasizing the need for focus and encouraging him not to squander his potential. Embracing a positive mindset and believing in his abilities, Daesung attempted to block the Null's attack once more, and to his delight, he succeeded. Filled with happiness, he let his guard down momentarily and received a powerful punch from the Null. Leon questioned him, saying, "Why can't you see the bigger picture? You still have a long journey ahead." The evaluation results for Gu Daesung for the year remained at a D rank. The Korean Hunter Association president, Oh Kang-hyuk, had concealed his identity using a beguiling mask that concealed both his face and body, but this subterfuge proved futile. Leon had known from the outset that someone like him, a warrior, wouldn't be a mere mercenary. As Leon participated in the evaluation this time, Kang-hyuk inquired whether he had achieved his desired outcome. Leon responded with "somewhat," and mentioned that he had found a potential soldier candidate. In response, Kang-hyuk offered his support, suggesting that if Leon intended to start a guild, they would be of great assistance. He noted that Leon was likely aware that, in establishing an organization of individuals, there was nothing more valuable than fame. In the present era, gaining recognition was a challenging task, and there weren't many routes to achieving it. Kang-hyuk informed Leon about a gate in Cheongju that had turned red due to a failed raid. It had remained uncleared for a year, and no one had been able to conquer it. The gate held a valuable prize, the Jewel of Wisdom, but it was guarded by the boss of the Red Gate, Jagged Spin. Chapter 12. This is the entrance to the Cheongju Sports Complex, where the KPP Guild first launched their raid. Upon crossing the gate, they were greeted by a modern civilization, seemingly more advanced than Earth itself. It felt as if they had stepped into a gateway to a future world. Continuing their exploration, they discovered that the surroundings had a distinct cyberpunk aesthetic. Realizing that their initial plans were based on the assumption of facing only a few formidable opponents, the Guildmaster decided to reevaluate their strategy, starting with the organization of the party. Opting for one of the large buildings as their base camp due to its elevated position, they aimed to gain a strategic advantage and a comprehensive view of their surroundings. Upon entering the building, they attempted to investigate if there were any traces, but to their surprise, there was nothing. No NPCs or monsters in sight. They diligently searched for Jagged Spin, the supposed boss of the gate, but found no sign of its presence. The absence of people or monsters in a city of this magnitude struck them as peculiar. Despite this, they considered it a fortunate circumstance, realizing they were not confronting a resistance army or an oppressive authoritarian force. The members of the KPP Guild convened for a meeting, with the Guildmaster addressing them at the forefront. Despite having entered the gate, they remained lacking in information about Jagged Spin. In response, the Guildmaster issued orders for the members to stay vigilant in the surrounding area, and plans were made to form an expedition team to map out the terrain. However, in the midst of the discussion, an unforeseen event unfolded. Their Guildmaster was suddenly shot from the outside and swiftly eliminated by an unknown assailant. The guild members were left in shock and speechless, only to realize that they were under fire. In a scramble for cover, the Vice Guildmaster found it incredulous that even their A-rank tanker Guildmaster couldn't react in time. He pondered about the formidable nature of this mysterious adversary. As the attack persisted, the guild members attempted to locate the enemy, but the swirling sand dust made measuring the distance challenging. Simultaneously, they observed that the building's structural integrity was rapidly deteriorating. Realizing the imminent danger, they hastily decided to retreat and sprinted outside the building. While making their escape, one of their comrades bravely advanced to check the exit, reassuring the others that she sensed no one's presence and believed the exit to be safe. Unbeknownst to her, the exit was intricately rigged with thin wires that went unnoticed until she unwittingly ran into them, resulting in her being cut into pieces. The guild members were shocked to discover that the entire area surrounding the building was covered with these concealed wires. As they unsheathed their swords to cut through the wires, Jagged Spin, who had been silently observing, seized the opportunity to launch a coordinated attack. Striking them with its formidable weapon, Jagged Spin efficiently eliminated most of the guild members. In a fit of rage, the Vice Guild Master shouted, "Show yourself, you piece of crap." An ominous robot then materialized in front of him, revealing itself to be Jagged Spin. Despite his anger-fueled words, the Vice Guild Master soon realized the gravity of the situation as Jagged Spin swiftly eliminated him. The first raid team of the Cheongju Gate, KKP Hunter, consisting of 58 members, met the same fate. This unfortunate outcome repeated with the second and third raid teams. The difficulty level of the gate boss Jagged Spin changed to red, marking a significant escalation in challenge. As a result, the Changju Gate raid was put on indefinite pause. Currently, a fresh group of hunters is gearing up for another attempt to raid the Changju Gate. This new expedition is led by one of Korea's top 10 guilds, the Golden Lion, boasting a Class S Guild Master, a Class A Vice Guild Master, and a team of 47 members. Additionally, the lineup includes the renowned Magic Tower's near Class S Mage, Gil Taesung, accompanied by 48 mercenaries. Rounding out the party is the Korean Hunter Association's Class A member, Han Hari, along with one more individual. With these formidable forces combined, the Changju Sports Complex Gate's fourth raid team operation is set to commence. Chapter 13. Han Hari harbored concerns about the mission unfolding smoothly, yet at the same time, she feared it not going smoothly. In her mind, the optimal scenario would be for success without necessitating Leon's intervention. She pondered that if Leon didn't have to step in, it implied the situation wasn't dire. Leon concurred, emphasizing that it would indeed be the best outcome. He elaborated on the responsibilities of a king in his realm, highlighting that ruling was a given, and anyone could assume that role. Expressing his belief that most rulers were similar and less afflicted by hubris, Leon conveyed to Hari the duty of a king, being the last line of defense. As their conversation unfolded, Han Hari recalled that Leon only intervened when the threat couldn't be blocked. This realization emphasized the King of Lionheart's duty as the ultimate fortress. Furthermore, she recognized that Leon's involvement was a testament to the severity of the situation and, simultaneously, a source of regret for the knights, signifying the gravity of the circumstances. Coincidentally, Leon mused that it appeared he would once again have to step in on behalf of what he deemed as these pitiful weaklings. Han Hari, on the other hand, held a more optimistic outlook for the current raid team, citing the presence of high-ranking hunters. While acknowledging their strength compared to ordinary humans, she noted that, for Leon, they lacked experience in true warfare. In Leon's perspective, the outskirts of the city were not as safe as they seemed. He found their confidence in the information somewhat misplaced, especially considering they had only encountered the enemy 3 times. Despite labeling themselves as raid teams, Leon observed that their approach was more about analyzing monster patterns and responding accordingly. He stressed that a true general knows how to adapt to any given situation, which lacks a set pattern. According to Leon's sources, Jagged Spin was reputed as a talented warlord, further emphasizing the gravity of the impending conflict. As Jagged Spin's creator faced her imminent demise, she made one final request. Her dying order to Jagged Spin was clear: eliminate all unidentified beings invading the city. This directive compelled Jagged Spin to ruthlessly target anyone attempting to enter the city, resulting in the elimination of 23% of the hunters from the 4th raiding team amidst the continuous barrage of gunfire and explosions. While in the process of charging energy, Jagged Spin suffered a surprise attack from a powerful hammer, damaging its main joint region. Attempting to change attack priorities proved futile as it received another potent punch from above, accompanied by additional magic damage from a mage. This assault caused Jagged Spin's radar system to malfunction, prompting it to utilize restricted resources and activate equipment within the city. As it began to run, firing multiple bullets at the hunters, the mage, Gil Taesung, instructed everyone to gather around and activated a distortion force field, a magical tool specifically designed to combat Jagged Spin. The force field successfully altered the trajectories of the bullets, but it proved insufficient to halt Jagged Spin's relentless assault. Upon realizing the abnormal phenomenon, Jagged Spin initiated a maintenance operation to analyze the force field's weak points. After completing the analysis, it resumed firing, managing to successfully breach the force field and deliver bullets inside. Taesung found it unbelievable that Jagged Spin had already calculated the angles at which the bullets would swerve. The complexity of predicting the bullet trajectories led them to the decision to turn off the distortion force field. Before deactivating it, Taesung advised the team to charge as soon as the force field was down. While he counted down, Jiamchul spotted something and halted everyone. They were surrounded by wires, a cunning move by Jagged Spin. Although the team assumed Jagged Spin was retreating, the wires indicated a more strategic approach. As Jagged Spin began charging its weapon, the force field had inadvertently gathered everyone together, leaving them vulnerable to the impending attack. Dodging the assault seemed impossible at this point. However, Just before Jagged Spin unleashed its attack, the sound of a horse galloping reached their ears. The horse was charging towards them, biting and cutting through some of the wires. This horse happened to be an old sworn friend of Leon. Leon, riding the horse, drew the attention of all the warriors, heralding a potential turning point in the battle. Leon, astride his horse, introduced himself as the king of the Lion Heart. With regal authority, he declared that he bestowed upon them the glory of being received in his presence and the honor of a duel. To everyone's surprise, he granted Jagged Spin, the formidable warrior, royal permission to engage in a duel with him. The onlookers were left in shock, with some even entertaining the thought that perhaps Leon was not in his right mind. Chapter 14. As Leon charged towards the enemy, he drew the divine spear just as Jagged Spin unleashed its attack. However, Leon, seasoned and courageous, easily deflected the cowardly long-range assault with his divine spear. In that crucial moment, Jagged Spin's high-performance AI calculations came to a halt. It struggled to logically comprehend the phenomenon unfolding before it. The machine quickly evaluated the situation. Leon wielded an outdated joust, a fast weapon but with limitations on the impact it could inflict based on its mass. Jagged Spin, now confused, perceived the weapon as a negligible threat, deeming it unworthy of any countermeasure, especially considering the imminent danger posed by his railgun. 3 seconds before the critical moment, the organism's shout erected a dense barrier, exhibiting a pattern distinct from the previously recorded abnormal phenomena and the estimated scope. 2 seconds prior, a direct clash occurred with the railgun's bullet. The subsequent impact should have eliminated the opponent even if they attempted to block it. However, 1 second before the expected outcome, the bullet was not clashed with nor blocked. It was effortlessly deflected. This skill resembled the fluid and natural movements of the Knights Templar, almost as if it were an instinctive ability. It was a miracle possessed by humanity's strongest fighters, a means of enforcing the rules of the world known as divine law, blessing of the arrow shield. This divine shield could deflect any long-range attack once, regardless of its nature or intensity. Jagged Spin, grappling with its inability to analyze and understand the mysterious phenomenon, perceived an abrupt increase in the enemy's threat level. Faced with this escalated danger, Jagged Spin made a tactical decision to withdraw from the battlefield. Long ago, its creator had tasked it with protecting this location and preventing anyone from approaching the jewel. After sustaining significant damage, Jagged Spin retreated to its laboratory to undergo repairs and resupply its weaponry. Meanwhile, at the heart of the city, several hunters cautiously explored the surroundings. Spotting a part of a machine gun across the street, they suspected it might be Jagged Spin. As their leader discussed the plan, an unidentified substance splashed onto his face. Upon turning around, he was horrified to discover that all of his comrades had been eliminated. In a matter of seconds, he sensed a presence passing through him and swiftly swung his sword, but there was nothing there. A few lines appeared across his face and body, leading to his demise. The eradication of 5 unidentified beings had been successfully executed. Jagged Spin, having identified the remaining organism, pursued it relentlessly as it fled toward a cemetery. The chase continued, intensifying the unfolding conflict. Begging for his life, the survivor pleaded with Jagged Spin for mercy. Surveying the cemetery, Jagged Spin recalled its creator's words about being buried there soon, becoming a permanent part of the city. His creator had asked Jagged Spin to protect the city, and this memory compelled Jagged Spin to forcibly change its priorities. Consequently, it left the area, sparing the survivor's life. Moments later, Taesung and the other hunters arrived, and the survivor speculated that Jagged Spin either ran away because it was tired or it perceived their approach and realized it couldn't win. They mused that even Jagged Spin had its limits. Surveying the surroundings, they noted the cleanliness of the cemetery, a stark contrast to the rest of the city. It became evident that this place was well maintained, the only pristine spot in the city. The reason for this cleanliness was Jagged Spin's final decision and utmost priority: to protect the citizens, even in death. The estimated count of remaining enemies was 49, with a level 5 threat in good health. During its maintenance routine, Leon stumbled upon Jagged Spin, setting the stage for the next phase of their confrontation. Chapter 15. Leon is a devoted worshipper of chivalry, and it wouldn't be an exaggeration to describe him as the incarnation of chivalry itself. His deep respect for this code of conduct goes beyond mere admiration. It is an integral part of his character. Leon harbors a particular disdain for cowardly ambushes, valuing fair fights above all else. While he recognizes that not all opponents may adhere to the same principles of fairness, this doesn't sway him from his knightly morals. The incarnation of chivalry, Leon remains steadfast, allowing nothing to break his will. This unwavering commitment is a source of strength for him, contributing to his status as the chosen one. Leon, observing Jagged Spin's relentless attacks and futile attempts, came to the realization that expecting honor from a machine might be futile. Armed with 480 bullets and 4 wire cutters, Jagged Spin continued its assault on Leon. However, every bullet it fired was deflected by the divine law, the blessing of the arrow shield. The abnormal phenomenon baffled Jagged Spin, prompting it to analyze the curvature by altering its trajectory and attempting to attack Leon from different angles. Despite these efforts, Jagged Spin found it incomprehensible why its long-range attacks were ineffective against Leon. Even the incredible speed of Leon's horse left Jagged Spin struggling to understand how an organism could possess such swiftness. The battle between Leon and Jagged Spin persisted, with the machine grappling to decipher the mysterious and seemingly insurmountable capabilities of its adversary. The battle between Leon and Jagged Spin intensified, with the two warriors engaging in a fierce exchange. As the clash reached its peak, Leon, with his loyal horse, Stallion, seized the opportunity presented by falling rocks, using them to climb above and leaping over Jagged Spin. With renewed determination, Leon pressed the attack, unleashing a dazzling display of skill in the epic confrontation between a knight and a machine. In the end, Leon's unwavering resolve and the power of light proved triumphant. Jagged Spin, having sustained lethal damage surpassing its operational limits, was defeated. In a final act, Jagged Spin remembered its creator's order: "What's sealed here should never be released." Following this directive, Jagged Spin initiated a self-detonation that resulted in a nuclear-like explosion. When Jagged Spin opened its eyes, it found itself inside a storage container permeated with the smell of oil. Driven by a singular purpose, to support its allies and protect the city, the Jagged Spinners swiftly headed towards the urban center. There, they defeated the enemies that threatened the city, earning the admiration of its citizens and becoming heroes. The story of unmanned tanks saving the city from a seemingly hopeless state became a heartening narrative for those who had lost faith. The Jagged Spinners evolved into a symbol of hope, recognized as Knights of Steel. Remodeled and organized under a commander, they continued to safeguard the city, becoming a stalwart force against any threat. They tirelessly protected, repeating the cycle until there was nothing left to defend. Eventually, the remaining battle machine received its last order: to prepare, protect, and perpetually carry out these two duties in a city that had become a testament to their unwavering dedication. After the colossal explosion, Leon miraculously survived, shielded by the blessing of the arrow shield. As he surveyed the aftermath, he laid eyes on the coveted object Jagged Spin had been protecting, the Jewel of Wisdom. For Leon, this was something that shouldn't exist, prompting him to draw his sword with the intent to destroy it. Walking towards the jewel, Jagged Spin, still operational, attempted to halt Leon by tying his leg. In response, Leon inquired if Jagged Spin was still trying to fight. Recognizing the machine's prolonged dedication to protecting this place and fighting alone, Leon saw Jagged Spin as a knight of unwavering devotion and loyalty. Acknowledging the profound service rendered by Jagged Spin, Leon declared that all living beings across dimensions were indebted to the machine. In a solemn moment, Leon acknowledged that Jagged Spin's quest was complete, and to bring closure, he destroyed the Jewel of Wisdom. Expressing a wish for Jagged Spin to rest in peace, Leon recognized the machine's sacrifice and unwavering commitment to its duty. Chapter 16. The president of the Hunters Association expressed surprise upon learning that Leon had destroyed the jewel. Expecting a complaint, Leon was taken aback when the president laughed and reassured him, saying, "No." The president explained that, since Leon had destroyed Jagged Spin, it was within his right to do as he pleased with the jewel. Leon, in turn, advised the president not to be disappointed, clarifying that the jewel was a poison. He elaborated, revealing that the jewel was crafted by the evil of wisdom in the pursuit to tempt humans, a creation of demonic origins. Initially, it granted wishes, but, like a beast, it demanded payment, gradually consuming individuals with the allure of eternal life. Leon emphasized that it didn't take long for someone to lose their humanity and succumb to becoming a demon under the influence of the jewel. Following the revelation about the demonic nature of the jewel, Leon offered advice, suggesting that if similar objects were discovered elsewhere, they should be promptly destroyed. However, he couldn't shake the thought that others might have already succumbed to the seduction of the demon. Meanwhile, they visited the laboratory to examine the remaining parts of Jagged Spin. When asked what he wanted to do, Leon, acknowledging Jagged Spin as an honorable knight, expressed his intention to bury him and pray for his journey to the gods' banquet hall. Before proceeding, he decided to bless Jagged Spin, taking out the Holy Grail. In a solemn moment, Leon prayed and poured holy water onto the remains of Jagged Spin. To their astonishment, the seemingly lifeless Jagged Spin began to move once more, defying expectations and leaving them in awe of the unexpected turn of events. As Leon felt a surge of divine energy emanating from Jagged Spin, even in the absence of a conventional energy source, he concluded that the divine blessing had indeed wrought a miracle. From the remaining body parts of Jagged Spin, a mini-robot was inexplicably created. Believing that if it was Jagged Spin, the goddess would choose him, Leon drew the divine sword and planted it firmly into the ground. After a fervent prayer, he withdrew the sword and swung it through the air, invoking the presence of the divine being. All those present, human and machine alike, sensed that the woman enveloped in a brilliant light was not human. She appeared to be a divine being, transcending any comparison to mere mortals, leaving everyone in awe of her celestial presence. The goddess Ariana, summoned by Leon's call, turned to her first knight, Lionheart, inquiring about the intentions behind this summoning. Leon, in turn, introduced Jagged Spin, extolling him as an honorable knight and a role model for all knights. Leon asserted that Jagged Spin deserved the care and attention of the goddess. However, Ariana responded, stating that Jagged Spin had not fulfilled her quest, proving neither his honor nor offering his glory to her. The goddess set forth her criteria for acknowledgement, suggesting that Jagged Spin had yet to meet the conditions that would earn her favor and recognition. With unwavering confidence, Leon, as the first knight of the goddess Ariana, asserted that Jagged Spin would have been worthy of the king of the Lionheart's glory were it not for his own existence. Leon held Jagged Spin in high regard, viewing him as a great knight. The goddess smiled in response to Leon's description and stated that if he held Jagged Spin in such high esteem, there was no need for her to delve further into the matter. However, she needed to ensure one thing. Addressing Jagged Spin as the otherworld Steel Knight, she asked if he would worship the light and champion justice by enlisting in her knight's military. Recognizing Jagged Spin's honor and knowledge, the goddess remarked on the childlike nature of his heart. She issued a directive for him to assist her knight in eliminating evil in the world, and in doing so, he too would be recognized as a knight under her guidance. Upon hearing the goddess's instructions, Jagged Spin and Leon exchanged smiles. Jagged Spin initiated the hacking of signal patterns for language and, upon installing the language module, began to speak. He uttered the words, "Demon, attack. Good plan." The goddess, pleased with Jagged Spin's response, smiled and assured him that as long as he remained loyal and supportive of her first knight, she would be with him in glory. In a sudden and awe-inspiring moment, a divine light descended from above, casting its brilliance upon Jagged Spin. The Grail Knight was being granted the divine attributes of light and justice, a transformative moment marking his acceptance into the ranks of the goddess's chosen warriors. In the USA's Magic Tower, within Master Reynald Sherman's room, a solemn scene unfolded. Reynald found himself apologizing to a great being residing within a jewel, expressing regret for his inability to fulfill its command. He explained that the presence of the survivor, Leon, had introduced an unforeseen variable, making it impossible for him to carry out the expected course of action. Reynald Sherman is the master of American Branch Magic Tower. The enraged great being dismissed Reynald's explanations as worthless excuses, but when the name, Leon, was mentioned, it demanded to know what Reynald had just revealed. Instructing him to turn on the news, they both witnessed Leon introducing himself as the king of the Lionheart, Leon Dragonia Lionheart. The great being was struck with shock and terror, questioning why Leon was present and how he had arrived. Reynald, equally surprised to see his master distressed, witnessed an unexpected turn of events. Suddenly, the great being, overwhelmed, declared that it was giving up and that it would no longer proceed with its plans. Without any further communication, the great being vanished, and the jewel remained silent, never speaking again. The unforeseen appearance of Leon had disrupted the plans of the great being and left Reynald in a state of fear and defeat. And thus concludes the latest chapter of our story. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated on the upcoming chapters. Thank you for joining us on this thrilling journey, and we look forward to bringing you more of Leon's adventures in the chapters to come. Chapters 17 to 23. In the Korea Hunter Association, they registered Jagged Spin as a member of Leon's guild. After Leon and Jagged left the laboratory, Leon coughed up blood. The goddess Ariana asked him if he was okay. Leon replied that he was okay. Nominating a Grail Knight in a godless land is difficult for him. Ariana always expresses gratitude for Leon's loyalty to her. Ariana said that even though this land is godless, it is her and the other gods' fault for not intervening sooner. She advised Leon to rest well and trust in his gods, and to wait for them. Ariana called upon her brothers and sisters and said they needed to help their follower. The day the Lionheart King turned 121 years old was the day the world ended, leaving only one night remaining. He cast away all divinity in his world and redirected it into his own heart. The gods, feeling ashamed, retreated into the heart of a holy man, watching as the Lionheart King slew all the wicked beasts within 180 years. They allowed a single man to bear the burden of the entire world. Therefore, all the gods of the pantheon owe Leon a debt that cannot be repaid. Pitos, the divinity of war and fire, is furious with himself because appointing only one Grail Knight placed excessive pressure on Leon's body. Ariana said it's time to break their silence. She wouldn't allow her knight to suffer in pain. Heto, the divinity of steel and blacksmith, suggested that just as they shaped life in the plains, they should offer any blessings they can to increase faith within society. She wants them to do missionary work and show the people divine miracles. And after witnessing them through the followers' lives, this world is connected through this thing called the internet. They will use this internet to their advantage. That's where their new Grail Knight comes in. Members of the Hunter Association saw a video uploaded on YouTube about the Naju Plains. When they checked who uploaded it, they found the official channel of Pantheon TV. Why go to the hospital? An office worker who used to look down on farmers. A single sentence from a farmer turned the tables. It's just rice, but with just one spoonful, your life can change. Asking AI about God. Surprising results. It's full of clickbait and high-quality content for no apparent reason. They wonder who made these. The big issue is these videos are not clickbait, but really true. Meanwhile, in the penthouse where Leon stays. Subtitling is complete. Continue with the upload. Han Hari asked Jagged Spin if he's done using his laptop and what he did. The name of the plan, noise marketing. The first phase is complete, proceeding to the second phase. Network hacking is in progress. After hearing Jagged Spin's remarks, Hari concluded that Jagged Spin must have been gaming, as Hari himself lacks any understanding of how computers function. At the temporary Naju Plains branch of the Pantheon Guild, Kim Jinsu is in a hurry, shouting, "Your Majesty." The video needs to be taken down. Han Hari first gave him barley tea, which he quickly drank. Kim Jinsu asked who uploaded that video, and Leon answered that it was Sir Spin who did it. Jinsu wondered how that killing machine managed to make that video. They asked Jinsu what it means to take down the video. Jinsu explained that, as Your Majesty knows, the rice grains here in Naju Plains are vastly different from those growing elsewhere in the world. Its consumption alone is enough to heal illnesses and make one healthy. It's like a fairy tale. Once people learn about this rice field, the whole world will target it. The Naju Plains will be filled with thieves. If the Food Administration permits planting, the association will help as much as possible. So Jinsu wants them to wait first. Leon knows they have their own laws and system. But he said they don't need to worry anymore, because the plantation of the goddess cannot be stolen by anyone. Jinsu wonders why Leon is so confident. That night, several vehicles and thieves arrived at the plantation. They were ordered to collect the grains and burn the rice fields in Naju Plains. The thieves were surprised because they thought the security in this rice field was tight, but they couldn't see any guards. They were the Viper Squad, a hitman group of the Demonic Human Association in Korea. They had already been paid, so all they had to do was carry out their jobs. They brought out the gasoline tanks, slowly spreading the gasoline across the rice fields. However, they paused when they saw what appeared to be a person in front of them. It turned out to be just a scarecrow. One of them said it seemed to be moving, but they dismissed it as probably just the wind. After a few moments, it suddenly multiplied. They hurried because they needed to burn the largest area possible within a short time and gather the grains from the storage room. After pouring all the gasoline they brought, they decided to hide some grains for themselves. Two of their companions suddenly disappeared. They couldn't find where they went. They noticed that the scarecrows seemed to be getting closer to them. Shortly after, one of them felt the scarecrow move and suddenly attacked. He told his companions that the scarecrows were moving. They couldn't believe that all of this was monsters. They wondered because there wasn't even a dungeon break. They hadn't seen this kind of monster even at a gate. They left in a hurry, realizing that most of their companions were not here. Their leader realized that the request they were given was unusual. They found the place where the rice grains were stored. He thought that if the story about this rice was true, it would make them rich. He immediately ordered his companions to transport the grains to their vehicles. Their leader said that monsters only roam in the field, so storage wouldn't be a problem. However, as he walked towards the storage, he had an accident and stepped on a landmine. They were surprised to find mines set right in front of the storage, and wondered who placed them there. It was confirmed that unqualified individuals had entered. They wondered why Jagged Spin from Changju Gate was here. The next morning, all the captured criminals were apprehended. The Viper Squad was successfully arrested. After the arrest of the demonic human association, the value of the Pantheon and the Blessed Rice increased exponentially. Leon toured the Pantheon's public unveiling for rice circulation, and the entire internet was abuzz with discussions about the Pantheon. Han Hari announced a major news to Leon. The results of the rice analysis came out, and each pack is valued at 230 million won. However, Leon mentioned that it needs to be cheaper because how can peasants afford it if the price is that high? The favor of a god should be equally distributed to everyone. Leon met with the president before to tell him that they need to preach to the farmers about the favor of being godlike. However, the president said that a president must maintain neutrality in religion. Still, Leon managed to gather more faith, and this was enough to gather the power and force of the lion heart. Han Hari then asked Leon if this would be all right. He successfully ordered what His Highness desired for the Yellow Gate, but Hari thinks attacking that gate with the people he chose seemed impossible. However, Leon said, "We'll see." The president of the Hunter Association gathered the worthless hunters. They wondered what was going on. Most of those who attended were D-rank and C-rank hunters. They saw Han Hari arrive, the A-rank mage swordsman who seemed to have garnered the highest record in last year's draft. And indeed, Your Highness, Leon Dragonia Lionheart, arrived. Gu Daesung knew that Leon was not an ordinary person, that he came from a different world. Leon began speaking and stated the reason why he invited everyone. He was looking for soldiers to join his guild, Pantheon. Those who are qualified, those who have proven themselves, and those who have endured training. He would give them the honor of entering his military. They were surprised to hear that Leon was looking for soldiers and not guild members. They were also informed that the entrance test is to clear the Yellow Gate at Samjeon Station. They complained because they didn't see how they could clear it. It seemed like they were being told to commit suicide. The hunter's reaction was expected because the difficulty of gates is categorized based on their colors: black, red, orange, and below those are the yellow, green, and blue gates. Considering the fact that the gate where Gu Daesung conducted his test at Seoul Station was a blue one, for a C or D rank hunter, a yellow gate means certain death. The attending hunters complained about the mentioned trial, so they were told that if they didn't want to continue with the test, they were free to leave. Leon asked the remaining hunters why they stayed. Curly said there might be some meaning to this. Gu Daesung thought he needed to seize this opportunity because this guild was likely made by Leon, who is probably an S-rank hunter. He told Leon that he knew he wouldn't let them die, which is why he stayed. Leon liked his good character and energetic demeanor. He said he was here to gather soldiers. The duty of a soldier is to obey, to accept the orders of the knight without question, and to trust in the honor and power of the knight. That's all they have to do. It simply means to listen. Leon told them to grab their gear and finish their preparations because they would immediately enter the Samjeon Station Yellow Rank Gate. Everyone was already wearing their equipment. It was somewhat heavy but surely effective. These gears were probably worth 10 million won, and C and D rank hunters couldn't afford such things. But they wondered why King Leon wasn't wearing any equipment. Gu Daesung asked Han Hari about it, and Han Hari said that Leon's skin was tougher than armor. Everyone began to walk inside the gate, and they received a system message. They were referred to as mercenaries from an external territory. It said that there was a battle happening between two tribes, and they needed to choose which side to support. From afar, they saw the approaching orcs. The orcs asked who they were, stating that this place was the territory of the Battle Axe tribe. Han Hari then asked Leon if they should continue with their quest. Leon replied to her to do as she wished. Han Hari immediately explained to the orcs that they were mercenaries and why they came here. The orc leader then invited them to join them. Because of this, Han Hari felt that something bad might happen. In the camp of the Battle Axe tribe, their chief, Karta Karak, remarked that they seemed weaker than he had thought. He said to support them, the Battle Axe tribe. It's a bigger war. A more honorable death. Leon couldn't hold back anymore and said he couldn't listen to this anymore. He was frustrated because a bunch of beasts like them dared to aspire for lofty dreams that weren't deserved. The chief became angry and insulted by Leon's words, but Leon swiftly removed his head. Leon said they weren't honorable warriors and would crawl like cockroaches on the ground and die. He said that wasn't true justice. Leon Dragonia Lionheart is extremely racist towards orcs. His kill streak has reached over 8 million, and he's been called the Orc Slayer, a legend. The orcs were shocked by their chief's death, and they immediately surged forward to seek revenge. The startled soldiers didn't know what to do. Leon ordered them to raise their shields and form a circle to fend off the enemy's attack. They were concerned because they were only D-rank hunters. They didn't know how they would win against the orcs. One of the orcs attempted to strike them with a battle axe, but to their amazement, a hunter managed to block it. This was due to the effects of the Lionheart's aura. The buffs they received from Leon were unbelievable. Leon instructed them to raise their shields and push the enemy away. Then, wait for the right moment to strike. Leon heard the orcs shouting to their revered god of warriors. Because of this, he became even more enraged at how these beasts dared to cry out for their god. He ordered his soldiers to finish them off and insult their false god. Leon called for Stallion and unleashed his sacred weapons to finish off all the orcs. After the battle, Leon proclaimed a victorious cry and honorable triumph. Han Hari asked Leon why he did that. What about their quest, she wondered. Leon replied that he would rather throw himself into a pit of fire than help those green beasts. They are not worthy of respect. Their existence is evil, and they don't deserve to live. They may be brave, but how can a person compare the aggressiveness of beasts to the bravery of knights? Don't treat them like a person because they are nothing but hurtful beasts. However, Han Hari thought that there might be good orcs in some part of the world. Leon made Han Hari think that the only good orcs are the dead orcs. When the gates to Earth opened, countless orc survivors stepped foot on Earth. The people on Earth welcomed them, but they didn't adjust to Earth and instead became demon-like beings. The orcs became a problem even on Earth. They had reached their destination. Jagged Spin said that if the mission were to be carried out here, killing everyone would be possible. Jagged Spin released radioactive material into the river to kill the orcs. Han Hari asked Leon if this wasn't against the honor of a knight. Leon explained to them that fighting the green beasts wasn't a war or battle. It's like eliminating animals. A good orc is a dead orc. When an orc drank water from the river, it noticed that the taste of the water was somewhat peculiar. It was slightly bitter and itchy. After a few moments, its stomach began to ache, and it called for the witch doctor. Peering outside, it saw its fellow orcs suffering from the same pain. They had never experienced anything like this before. They knew it wasn't a curse or enchantment. Shortly after, someone suddenly shouted, "Honor to Lionheart." Leon ordered to finish off the beasts and not leave a single one behind. The hunter soldiers immediately charged and cleared the entire Battle Axe tribe. The entire orc species is now their enemy. The quest has changed. Finish off all the orcs in the hidden quest field. A furious witch doctor orc appeared, calling Leon's group demon bastards and cowards. Leon told him that it was nonsense. He questioned how intense is an animal discussing honor. The utter disdain for lower animals is shameful. Leon said that even if he were to gouge out his own eyes, it would be a grave sin that cannot be done. Leon then gave them a chance to kill themselves. The witch doctor became angry and said they would not be forgiven by Gokrok. Leon tried to attack him, but it was too late. Gokrok was on his way. The witch doctor performed an offering. As Leon expected from the animals, they were uncivilized. This was the hidden quest. Finish off Gokrok, the enchantment god orc, along with his right eye and arm. Gokrok stated that this creature is not permitted and must be killed. It launched a powerful attack against Leon, but Gokrok discovered that there is a similar entity protecting Leon. He asked who the god was protecting Leon. Leon was unaffected because of the divine law blessing of the arrow shield. Leon became angry because Gokrok violently compared himself to a god, solely based on playing as the captain of a group of animals. Leon said that as the king of Lionheart, he could not tolerate Gokrok's existence. Gokrak's giant arm attempted to crush Leon, but Leon simply sliced it and cut off his hand. Gokrak wondered why he felt pain, as it was not his original body that was attacked. He saw the sword wielded by Leon, the holy sword of radiance. He immediately realized and recognized Leon, the orc executioner and demon slayer, the knight who was the sole survivor in that nightmare world. Gokrak quickly retreated and disappeared, telling the witch doctor that he would pay for this recklessness. Leon stated that in his opinion, that was the best an orc could get for a god, for a bunch of trash animals like him. The witch doctor asked what Leon had done, and he claimed that he would avenge his comrades. However, Leon swiftly ended his life. He said they were creatures that should not remain alive. They cleared all hidden quests and received the Orc Hunter trait and War Knight's Men-at-Arms. When fighting an orc, they could deal 30% more damage. When fighting alongside a warrior with the War Knight attribute, they could gain an additional 20% advantage in physical attacks. They all received physical attack resistance, something typically only obtained by tankers. They were amazed by this, even though it was only for orcs, but the 30% extra damage was a significant addition. Also, the physical attack resistance they received was noteworthy. Then, Leon ordered them all to collect the loot. Hanhari then asked Leon what they would do with Gokrak's hand. Jagged Spin received a message from Steel and showed it to Leon. He claimed to sense a large amount of mana from the amputated arm of the creature. He advised Leon to use the Holy Grail to absorb that mana, then they would grant power to him. Leon approached the giant hand, carrying the Holy Grail, and felt a similar power to divine power. It seemed that the animals really enjoyed worshipping. However, Leon wouldn't accept these unless they also cherished other creations. For him, they were a force of demons that needed to be eliminated. Leon was summoned by his goddess, Ariana. The goddess approached him because Leon needed to make a decision. In Ariana's opinion, he could recover the power of a sacred item using this power. Leon asked if this was true, and Ariana answered him with a yes. She assured him that she would respect whatever decision Leon made. He possesses 4 sacred items: the Holy Spear, Holy Sword, Holy Grail, and the Lionheart. The power of the Holy Sword is quite substantial at the moment. Therefore, Leon chose to recover the power of the Holy Grail. Afterward, Hanhari called Leon because he had something to show him. Jagged Spin tied up one of the hunter soldiers. This soldier complained that he was being attacked by this robot. Leon warned him to be careful with his words if he didn't want his tongue cut off. He scolded him for speaking to a knight inappropriately. Leon asked Sir Spin what the problem was. Sir Spin pointed to the soldier and said he was stealing loot. Your Highness immediately ordered Hanhari to investigate this. The soldier couldn't believe that they trusted a robot and recovered something from it. It was the great orc warrior's heart. It was the most valuable loot inside the orc gate. They asked the thief why he did such a thing. He should know that this theft was a serious sin. He said it was a misunderstanding and he didn't steal it, but Leon suddenly cut off his hand. Leon knew that here, the laws and what he considered common meanings were different. Nevertheless, he was part of the military of the King of the Lionheart. This meant that what he should follow was not the laws and orders he knew, but the laws of Leon. Leon said that if they didn't want to follow these, they should raise their hands. Thieves would have their hands cut off. That was the law of the Lionheart Kingdom. It was difficult for people in the modern world to accept his laws. However, these amazing buffs made them feel like they upgraded from AD rank to AC rank. It seemed like they were even stronger than before. The benefits were too good to pass up. First of all, stealing was wrong. It was a lawless place inside the gate. So, the hunter soldiers thought that perhaps it would be better to have strict laws like this. Gu Daesung approached Your Highness and Leon asked him why he approached. Gu Daesung asked if Leon could allow the thief to retrieve his arm. Leon clarified if he meant to return it to its previous state. If Leon did this, it would negate the point of the punishment. Gu Daesung understood this. However, they lived amidst various aspirations from Leon, and since they were only informed about the rules now, it would be fair to give the thief a chance. This seemed reasonable to Leon, and Gu Daesung apologized. Leon told the thief to be grateful because he had a companion speaking for him. Leon used the Holy Grail to allow the thief to recover his severed hand. Gu Daesung was surprised because the best an S rank could do was to replace a severed hand. They couldn't regenerate one. But Leon possessed an unbelievable combat power and a healing ability superior to an S rank healer. After being healed, Leon dismissed him from his presence. He said he would forgive him once because he respected the laws of their world, but he was stripped of his rights. The thief thanked him and asked for forgiveness. Leon said that those who wished to be part of his military should stay. Those who didn't could take their share of the loot and leave. This was an opportunity for them, so they wanted to enter no matter what. Because of this, Leon immediately began the training sessions. Han Hari asked Leon what the next training would be. Leon's answer was physical training. Upon their return, Han Hari announced the entrance of Your Highness, Leon Dragonia Lionheart, and the Grail Knight, Sir Jagged Spin. Leon congratulated everyone on passing the simple test. He said they all lacked a bit to be part of his military, but it was something that could be worked on. They were surprised when Leon said that the Orc Gate was just a simple test. As they watched Leon in battle, he claimed to see various issues. The most important thing is their bodies. Therefore, he decided to start with physical training. From now on, they will all undergo rigorous training following the training manual of his kingdom's army. Training the body is training the muscles. You train your muscles to push your body to its limits and overcome them. A Grail Knight, Sir Gratas the Giant Slayer, created the Standing Army's training manual and said, "People become stronger when you beat them harder." So, how should a soldier guarding the kingdom train? Of course, they should be trained harder than a farmer. Therefore, Sir Gratas spoke these wise words for the best training. Tear and beat the soldiers' bodies and heal them afterward. Not only will their muscles become stronger, but their dynamic visual activity will also improve in an attempt to avoid further beatings. Now, Leon ordered them beat each other up. And here concludes the latest chapter of our story. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated for the next chapters. Thank you so much for watching. Chapters 24 to 27. Leon instructed the remaining hunters to beat each other until all the muscles in their bodies tore from the exertion, their fists shattered, and ideally, their bones would break. Gu Daesung complained, calling it nonsense, arguing that such actions would only lead to bodily breakdown. Leon stated that they should consider it fate, as the individual standing before them was the guardian of the Holy Grail. Mr. Kim observed Gu Daesung's facial wounds healing. It was a phenomenon. All warriors near the Holy Grail would experience healing. However, unless one drank holy water, it would only aid in healing torn muscles and resetting bones. Leon gave them 5 hours to beat everything in front of them, with no allies allowed. They were to accept all attacks while attacking whoever was in front of them. If anyone remained standing after 5 hours, Leon himself would beat them. Then, he handed over the command to Sir Jagged Spin. The hunter soldiers were surprised, wondering if this was part of the training manual. Gu Daesung and Mr. Kim faked laughter. Jagged Spin noticed the deceitful actions of the other hunters and struck them. He suggested initiating the fight, warning that armed forces would be deployed otherwise. The hunters had no choice but to start brawling. Surprised, Gu Daesung exclaimed that it was madness, insisting that they were all out of their minds. Suddenly, he received a punch to the face. They took this moment to observe the daily activities of the hunters who registered to become Leon's knights. At 9 in the morning, there was Grata's army training, known as the Steel Skin Project. By 12 noon, they had lunch, consisting of water mixed with salt and sugar. The hunters asked about the unusual lunch. Leon explained that it was their lunch according to the Standing Army Manual No. 0. Soldiers only needed to be fed enough not to die. They would receive proper nutrition once they became true soldiers. At 1 in the afternoon, they had tactical training, where they were divided into 5 groups and attempted to stop Leon while he was riding a horse. By 9 at night, it was time for sleep. This grueling regimen was all part of Leon's plan, though the hunters had no way of knowing it. The next morning, Gu Daesung trained alone with his shield and sword. The shield proved heavier than he had anticipated, demanding considerable effort to wield the sword effectively. He found that the postures available within the shield formation were too restrictive. When attempting to use the sword in formation, he realized he needed to resort to stabbing. Observing Daesung's training, Leon intervened, stating that he was doing it wrong. He ordered Daesung to correct his posture and attempt stabbing once more. Gu Daesung promptly obeyed and made another attempt, yet his technique remained flawed. Leon pointed out his tendency to lower his shield while stabbing. He reiterated the importance of using the shield to protect their allies' right shoulder, even if they couldn't see them. He emphasized that they shouldn't lower their shields, as doing so would create a gap, and a gap would inevitably create an opening. Daesung noticed that Your Majesty's strategy involved having soldiers with shields block enemies while the knights advanced to eliminate them, a tactic Leon termed hammer and anvil. According to Leon, this was the correct approach. However, Daesung reasoned that since the enemies were monsters, he doubted that such a method would suffice to defeat them. Leon asked Daesung if he dared to teach him how to fight creatures from other worlds. Daesung clarified that this wasn't his intention. Leon pointed out that they also faced many monsters at their world's gates. In fact, the monsters at the gates of this world were comparatively friendlier than the ones he had to contend with. Giants towering at 20 meters tall, trolls with endless regenerative abilities, snakes boasting multiple heads, spiders transporting dozens of goblins, and a dragon capable of crushing mountains with a single hand. Leon taught Daesung that he needed to learn various hunting methods to confront all types of monsters and be prepared to adapt to any unexpected situation. He emphasized that such skills could only be acquired through real-life experiences. Leon asked Daesung if he had decades of experience fighting monsters while serving a goddess and if he possessed a versatile spirit capable of bringing glory to any battlefield and wielding any weapon with success. He explained that this was why he taught soldiers only one thing: being well-rounded was essential for a knight. He stressed that to increase the chance of survival, all they needed to do was hone one talent. However, Daesung expressed a desire for more than just that. Leon asked if he dreamed of becoming a knight. Daesung pondered how that could be possible, considering he was just a peasant. Leon inquired, "Aren't knights aristocrats? Don't paint my kingdom with the logic of your world." He clarified that a knight was not something reserved only for aristocrats. To him, a knight was someone who walked the path of hardship with honorable duty, protecting people and promoting good with courage, and swearing eternal loyalty to the goddess and the nation. He emphasized that anyone could be a knight if they fulfilled this sacred promise. Leon also stated that if one had the courage and personality to perform that duty, it was enough to earn his respect. Hearing this, Gu Daesung felt inspired to become a knight as well. At the United States Magic Tower branch, the jewel spoke once more, proclaiming its ability to impart wisdom and truth. It demanded respect and offered gifts in return. It ordered that a space transfer spell be cast on the crystal first, and in the event of an emergency, it should be detonated in space. It declared that it had no intention of setting foot on a planet where the monster, Leon, lived. It stated that it was contemplating a method to eliminate Leon, emphasizing that the current moment was optimal since he still lacked an army. The Great being ordered to ensure entry through the same gate Leon would use and fervently urged for Leon's demise this time. On the day of the Pantheon Guild's standing army graduation ceremony, Leon announced that they would attack the Yellow Gate with the trainee soldiers. Notably, Sir Yappy and Han Hari would not participate in this raid, but Chief Jinsu would be part of it. Acknowledging the trainees' progress over the last 4 weeks of training, Leon kept his words brief, stating that now was the time to demonstrate what they had gained. He emphasized that while doors like the Yellow Gate were typically avoided, once they confronted it, they would understand the essence of being a soldier under the King of the Lion Heart. With resolve, Leon ordered them to advance through the gate, reminding them that they would soon stand before the divinity they pledged to serve. 49 hunters with an average rank of D, 1 hunter from the Hunter Association, and Leon Dragonia Lionheart entered the gate. Although Sir Yappy appeared concerned, Han Hari reassured him, stating that with Your Highness among them, they had nothing to fear. However, Sir Yappy pointed out a discrepancy, stating, "Problem. Your Highness, 1. Trainee soldiers, 49. Observer, 1. Total, 51. While Han Hari confirmed the count, she questioned what the problem was. Sir Yappy corrected the count, stating that 52 had entered the gate. Reacting swiftly to the emergency, he jumped and followed inside. Despite Han Hari's attempt to stop him and urging him to wait, she bumped her face and failed to enter the gate. As they observed, they noticed the gate undergoing changes, with the mana count fluctuating. Suddenly, the color of the gate shifted from yellow to red, indicating a fluctuating gate. Inside the gate, a war between monsters and soldiers of the palace was raging. As soon as Leon's group entered, they were confronted by demons, prompting them to wonder if they had entered a demon gate. In response, Leon ordered them to raise their shields and form a magic square formation. The soldiers swiftly complied, adopting Lionheart's testudo formation. With determination, Leon commanded them to advance. Chief Jinsu was surprised by their forward movement, especially in the face of a demon gate, noting their lack of fear. He also observed the buffs emanating from the Lionheart's aura. Astonished, he couldn't believe that these buffs surpassed those of a commander's level and were applied to everyone. As the monsters charged at the hunter soldiers, they prepared themselves by raising their shields. Chief Jinsu was astounded by what he witnessed. Even the A and B rank hunters struggled against the Bloodhound's attacks, only managing to block them through sheer willpower. He couldn't help but wonder what had transpired in the past 4 weeks of training. Nevertheless, the soldiers pushed back against the enemies, launching a relentless counterattack. They refused to give the enemies a chance to strike, instead seizing every opportunity to stab at their openings and pressing forward. However, when Chief Jinsu spotted a demon troll among the adversaries, he feared that they wouldn't be able to block its heavy attacks, which rivaled those of an A-rank opponent. As Squad 3 Captain, Gu Daesung, assessed the situation, he noted that the attack from the mid-size entity was lighter compared to Your Highness's charged attack, indicating that they could indeed block it. In response to the entity, he ordered the squad to start firing. Leon expressed surprise at Sir Yappy's presence but praised a good block before finishing off the demon troll. The monsters became fearful upon seeing the trolls fall, expecting a reverse summoning. However, the trolls simply perished on the spot, prompting them to start fleeing. Observing the demons retreating, the soldiers cried tears of joy for their victory. The soldiers expressed gratitude to Leon and the warriors for saving the Sparrow Kingdom from the demon invasion. With the kingdom under attack by demons, their mission was to protect it from the invasion led by the Demon King. They had 1 week remaining to accomplish this task. Confusion arose among the hunter soldiers when they noticed that the system referred to the threat as the Demon King rather than the Great Demon, as they had expected. Additionally, they were puzzled as to why the gate, which they believed to be yellow, had disappeared, preventing their return. One of the soldiers urgently informed Your Highness of this development. Leon swiftly silenced them, cautioning against acting hastily. Sir Yappy reported the unexpected event to Leon, a foreign invasion. In response, Leon inquired if anyone could explain the situation. Gu Daesung provided an explanation, stating that it was a fluctuating gate. Essentially, it was a phenomenon where the difficulty of a gate suddenly escalated significantly, trapping those inside until they resolved the threat. Leon considered that this couldn't be a mere coincidence. He reaffirmed that there would be no change in their plan. They would proceed with cleaning up the gate. Gu Daesung questioned if Your Highness was certain, expressing concern about the potential presence of demon kings. In response, Leon confidently asserted his position as the king of the Lionheart, highlighting his past achievements. He stated that he had slain 2 demon kings and over 30 great demons. With conviction, he challenged any doubts about his abilities. Indeed, in the past, Leon possessed numerous sacred powers that aided him in his battles. However, in his current circumstances, he couldn't guarantee success against a demon king. Nevertheless, he emphasized the importance of strength and reliability for a knight, no matter the situation. They could only rely on him as their beacon of hope. The great being recognized that Leon was weakening, acknowledging that ultimately, he was only human. It revealed that within their midst was a being whose sexual desires for demons had been brewing for a century. Once that creature awakened as a demon king, it could pose a significant threat to Leon's life. In the Sparrow Kingdom, a land boasting a proud millennia-long history of peace, the current situation was dire. Despite relentless demon attacks, only the palace remained standing. The surviving inhabitants clung to the last vestige of hope, refusing to surrender and fighting for their lives. Under the leadership of Leon, their group convened a meeting. They deliberated on the gates and noted the distinct feature of this particular gate. It had a time limit. Ordinarily, a dungeon break occurred when monsters were left unchecked at a gate. However, in quests with specified limitations, the gate would close once the quest conditions were fulfilled. Having grasped the situation, Leon discussed the matter with Kim Jinsu. Although he initially had no intentions of intervening, the urgent circumstances prompted him to ask Jinsu if his stance would change if both Leon and Mr. Spin were to get involved. Jinsu replied affirmatively, noting that the matter was under consideration by the association's president. Continuing the conversation, Leon inquired about hidden quests, prompting Jinsu to ask for clarification on his intentions. Leon stated his plan straightforwardly. He intended to kill the Demon King. As expected, the demonic energy emanating from the demon troll did not yield favorable results in Leon's estimation. He believed that in such quantities, it would only allow for a brief connection to the Pantheon. Speaking with the goddess Ariana, she queried whether he felt it as well. Leon confirmed that he had noticed it for a while, but he sensed a different kind of energy within this gate. Ariana explained that she wouldn't easily detect it due to inhabiting a living body, as the energy naturally flowed throughout the world. This being possessed such immense power that not even Leon had noticed its presence for so long. It likely rivaled a demon king or held a similar status, a demon on the level of a lord, Ariana speculated. She pondered that a being of such power should emit even stronger energy. Ariana then informed her knight that another god of the pantheon wished to convey a message to Leon. The god Plu expressed a desire to investigate this world, indicating that he might have sensed something significant. As a result, they would require energy for his emergence. Ariana was confident that Leon knew how to gather this energy in a specific manner. Accompanied by his companions, Leon journeyed to a designated location. Upon their arrival, they were welcomed by the head butler, Farco, who guided them indoors. Leon observed that the palace owner appeared to possess a discerning eye for artistry. As the group explored the Sparrow Palace, they learned about the kingdom's long history, spanning from the reign of the first queen, Fiora, to the current queen, Beatrice. The palace had faithfully served countless queens throughout the ages. This led them to speculate that Sparrow operated as a matriarchal society, where leadership and inheritance passed from mother to daughter. Witnessing this conversation, Leon's anger flared. He felt enraged by the disrespectful customs of gossiping about royals, especially as a former peasant himself. Leon swiftly apologized to the butler, expressing his disdain for the behavior of those who lacked proper manners. He explained that he had brought some members along due to the urgency of the situation, despite their lack of etiquette. As they entered the presence room, they were greeted warmly. The queen awaited their arrival. Upon confirming his identity, Leon was questioned if he was the Sir Lionheart who had distinguished himself in the battle at the palace gates. Duke Archeum, introducing himself as the Chancellor of the Kingdom, announced his decision to bestow knighthood upon Leon for his valor and accomplishments in the recent conflict. In response to the impending praise, Leon expressed his desire to first acquaint himself with the queen. However, his attempt to approach her was promptly halted. He was informed that despite his remarkable achievements, as an outsider, he couldn't immediately approach the queen. Leon's companions hesitated, thinking perhaps Leon wouldn't react even if the Chancellor shouted at him. However, it became apparent that Leon could no longer contain his frustration. He boldly addressed the queen, introducing himself as Leon Dragonia Lionheart, the king of the Lionheart Kingdom. Despite the potential rudeness of his actions, Leon felt compelled to assert himself. In response to Leon's bold declaration, the Chancellor expressed his dissatisfaction and ordered the captain to remove Leon. Suddenly, in a shocking turn of events, Leon seized the Chancellor's head and twisted it around, breaking his neck. His companions were taken aback and questioned Your Highness's actions in astonishment. The captain, bewildered by Leon's actions, questioned the reasoning behind his actions. Leon revealed that it was a deception, confronting the Chancellor about how long he had planned to conceal his true identity. He challenged the Chancellor to reveal his true form, exposing him as a vile demon. As the Chancellor transformed into a demon, others of his kind emerged around them. Leon remained composed, instructing them to cease their panic and unite in battle as a cohesive force. He effortlessly blocked the demon's attack with just 2 fingers before swiftly dispatching it. Observing this revelation, the captain realized that demons had been lurking within the castle. Responding to the cries for help, he directed his soldiers to eliminate all demons within the castle, sparing none. Leon intended to approach the queen, but he was intercepted by her captain. Recognizing the captain's loyalty, Leon found it troubling that he wasn't prioritizing the noble family during such a crisis. The captain asserted that his loyalty lay solely with the queen, Her Majesty. Leon acknowledged the captain's dedication but reminded him that both he, as the king, and the queen held the authority to question and make judgments. The captain needed to understand his place. The captain argued that the queen was not in a state of mind to make clear judgments, and with the Chancellor's demise, he now held authority. Sensing the corruptive energy permeating the castle, Leon urged the captain to act swiftly in cleansing it. The captain hesitated, questioning Leon's certainty in his directives. Leon assured him that as the king, he did not deceive. When asked what he desired, Leon requested command over the soldiers and the authority to eradicate evil, affirming his commitment to resolving the issue despite the captain's lack of power. In the central square of the Sparrow Kingdom, Leon addressed the gathered crowd, announcing that he had been granted full authority and introducing himself. He informed them that many among them were possessed by demons, potentially intending to incite a revolution with the castle's intervention. However, he reassured them that they need not worry, as he possessed a method to distinguish between the possessed and the unpossessed. Leon proceeded to demonstrate his method by holding two individuals and proclaiming, to the innocent, to the unharmed, to the non-pagan, "Cast yourselves into the fire to prove your innocence." However, it was merely an example, and he threw the two individuals into the fire to illustrate. The spectators were taken aback by Leon's actions, expecting him to execute them all. One of the individuals thrown by Leon was burned, while the other emerged unharmed, surprising the onlookers. As the crowd witnessed the burning of the soldier's body, Leon asserted that these sacred fires only consumed the wicked. He urged them to express gratitude to Pitos, the god of war and fire, and to shout his name in glory as they walked through the flames. However, the spectators remained hesitant, questioning one another about what they should do, unsure if the flames truly only targeted demons. Growing impatient, Leon's anger flared, and he urged them to hasten their entry into the flames. He questioned whether they were all corrupted or if they preferred to meet their end by his sword. Faced with Leon's stern ultimatum, the people immediately rushed into the blazing fires, leaving only the demons behind. The pervasive stench of their presence filled the air. Addressing the demons, Leon vowed to punish them and tear apart their souls. One of the insulted demons warned Leon to know his place as a mere human. Out of seething anger, Leon unleashed a tirade against the demons, his voice booming with such intensity that their ears burst. He condemned them as trash, arrogant worms who thrived on the emotions of people. He questioned their audacity to pretend to be human, to walk upright and mingle among society, even to feign the role of soldiers. He made it clear that he would never allow such deception to continue, promising that they would meet their demise in agonizing torment. Their cries of despair and suffering, he declared, would reverberate throughout the world. Realizing their grave error, one of the demons acknowledged that they had severely messed with the wrong guy. Witnessing his relentless actions, the great being and his disciple came to the same conclusion. Their infiltration plan had utterly failed. They couldn't help but feel a sense of dread at the formidable presence of Leon, recognizing him as a terrifying adversary. And here concludes the latest chapter of our story. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated for the next chapters. Thank you so much for watching. Chapters 28 to 32. Leon reassured the citizens of the Sparrow Kingdom not to fear, asserting that as long as he remained alive, these evil entities could not harm them. He explained that these malevolent beings thrived by sowing negative emotions in the minds of people. However, a defiant demon urged the people not to believe it was over, promising their eventual destruction. But before he could finish, Leon swiftly struck him on the head, silencing him. Pointing to the subdued demon, Leon urged the crowd to look at the creature before them, labeling it as the root cause of their surrender to temptation and fear. He attributed their hardships, hunger, illness, family discord, mourning stumbles, failed marriages, and gambling losses, to the influence of these demonic forces. As the listeners came to the realization that this demon was the source of all their troubles, each one of them seethed with fury towards it. Whenever the demon attempted to speak, Leon would silence it by twisting its horn. Addressing the citizens striving to lead righteous lives, Leon lectured them on the nature of demons as beings that bring sorrow and hardship into their lives in various ways. He emphasized that all the wrongs they faced were the fault of demons and that their lack of true faith was also due to their influence. However, he reassured them not to fear, as they had been blessed by the god of war and fire, Pitos, with holy fire. Leon called forth the red-haired child, inviting him onto the stage and entrusting him with the object imbued with divine flame. He instructed the child to use it to punish the demon until it atoned for its sins. Addressing the child, Leon queried whether he felt any pity for the demon, to which the child responded with a resolute no, citing his father's demise at the hands of demons. With determination, the child approached the bound demon, undeterred by its attempts to intimidate him with threats of vengeance. In response, Leon swiftly delivered a punch to the demon's face, causing its mucus and saliva to drip. Undeterred, The child proceeded to strike the demon repeatedly on the head with the wooden object engulfed in holy fire. As the demon screamed curses and threats, Leon, incensed by its defiance, unleashed a flurry of blows until it fell silent, completely subdued. The demon of pleasure and corruption, Baltars, had spent 34 years wreaking havoc and tormenting countless souls. Yet, he found himself confined and powerless, a fate he hadn't anticipated. Sir Yappy paid him a visit in his cell, seeking information. However, Baltars, considering himself superior, refused to cooperate, dismissing Jagged Spin as beneath him. As the hunter soldiers arrived with water, containing 15% holy water, Jagged Spin recognized its significance as a potent tool for extracting information. Understanding the conclusion it offered, Jagged Spin seized Baltars and submerged his face into the holy water. The demon shrieked in agony, defiantly proclaiming his identity. Undeterred, Jagged Spin repeated the process until Baltars relented and provided the desired information. Jagged Spin meticulously counted the letters of the information provided by Baltars, noting that it fell short of the average length obtained from other captured demons. When questioned about the significance of this observation, Jagged Spin explained that it indicated Baltars could potentially divulge more information. Perplexed by this assessment, Baltars dismissed Jagged Spin as delusional, questioning how he could possibly know the extent of information shared by his fellow demons. Jagged Spin questioned the rationale behind keeping a hostage alive if they failed to provide adequate information, leaving the demon dumbfounded and unable to respond. Subsequently, Jagged Spin reported to Leon, detailing the information gleaned from the 32 beings. Remarkably, these pieces of information exhibited a consistency of over 89%, leading them to be considered true. Impressed by Jagged Spin's diligence, Leon commended him for his excellent work. Curious about the fate of the demons afterward, Leon inquired about Jagged Spin's actions. Jagged Spin revealed that he dispatched them swiftly, with an average time of 14 seconds per demon. Pleased with the efficiency, Leon expressed his satisfaction, remarking that the song of justice was always pleasant to hear. As Leon suddenly felt unwell and dropped his glass, Sir Spin swiftly analyzed his symptoms: increased heart rate, headache, chest pain, and difficulty breathing. Concerned, Leon confided in Sir Spin, expressing his inability to accept the reality of evil beings coexisting on the same land as him. Seeking guidance, Leon asked Sir Spin for a course of action. In response, Sir Spin advised to promptly remove the cause of Leon's distress. Appreciating the clarity of the plan, Leon concurred, emphasizing the need to eliminate the source of their discomfort. Resolute in their decision, the Lionheart King, akin to a demigod, and Sir Spin, akin to a machine, ventured out into the night, declaring, "It's time for a late-night outing." Thus, a brutal night of action commenced. The goblin savored sudden success, emboldened by an offer that Androgen couldn't refuse. "An offer, you say? Know your place, beast," said Androgen. "Your lord and most of your mighty demons are dead. Do you think I'll walk with you on equal footing? Many of yours have also perished." "Don't be arrogant," retorted the goblin. "Not only did our lord fall in the great uprising 180 years ago, but I'm certain your lord met a similar fate. I know what merciless beings descended there. 180 years ago, the five evils convened for the first time with aspirations to conquer the world. However, the outcome was harrowing. 3 demon lords and over 10 million demons met their demise." The goblin professed to be a survivor of that celestial battleground. When Androgen inquired if he knew what had transpired there, the goblin chuckled and remarked, "You beasts who succumb to your instincts. I thought I made it clear that I had an offer you couldn't refuse. Then speak it. I, Androgen, will cast the scoundrel into the deepest abyss." The goblin asserted that he had heard rumors of Androgen executing an order from the esteemed great demon. It was nearing completion, Androgen confirmed. However, he acknowledged his mortality and emphasized that the end was drawing near. The goblin and its minion ventured into the forest, deeming it their best opportunity. The odds seemed favorable, with 7 for Androgen and 3 for their enemy. The minion, an S-rank mage, suggested their combined prowess would ensure victory if they both entered. However, the goblin refused to accompany them. Curious about their next destination, the minion inquired, to which the goblin replied that they needed to head towards the corpse harvesters near the palace forest. These notorious individuals were renowned for their formidable attack capabilities. Soon, they encountered a corpse harvester, prompting the goblin to instruct its minion to hide. With swiftness, someone subdued and dragged the struggling corpse harvester, who cried out in desperation, seeking aid. Fortunately, the two quickly concealed themselves, avoiding any unwanted attention. While concealed, they overheard Leon inquiring if Sir Spin had completed his task. Despite Sir Spin's assumed success, there were evidently still many lives present. The last captive supposedly caught sight of something remarkable. Leon pondered how there could still be survivors amidst the chaos. Nervously, the goblin sought reassurance, asking if they were adequately concealed and if their stealth mode remained activated. However, the goblin's minion expressed confusion. He hadn't detected any approaching noise. The goblin explained that it was due to the Grail Knight's divine law of silence, which suppressed certain sounds, including the clamor of galloping horses. Leon had employed this divine law to eliminate all demons within the forest. Leon couldn't shake off the unpleasant energy that seemed to envelop them in the forest. Sir Spin's call interrupted his thoughts, informing him that the satellite had detected their target. With urgency, they departed to intercept it, leaving the two apprehensive individuals behind, narrowly avoiding detection. Upon returning home, Leon cleansed himself, reflecting on the presence of demons driven by pleasure and corruption. They were a twisted manifestation of desire, a horde of perverts. Leon questioned why so many of these demons congregated at this gate, including high-ranking and elite ones. He suspected the presence of a great demon but pondered the reason behind it. Interrupting his musings, someone entered, remarking on the sickening smell of blood. It was a woman whose presence Leon hadn't noticed. She suggested that perhaps he was tired and should rest. The woman greeted Leon and said, "Hello, knight. Or should I address your highness, king of the Lionheart?" Leon closed his eyes momentarily, captivated by the beauty of this woman. He felt that he was displaying sensuality without even doing anything. The cause of this conflict: a woman with exquisite beauty symbolizing downfall. An ordinary person would also not notice their own downfall and end up drowning. She introduced herself as Beatrice Aligere Sparrow, the queen of this small kingdom. Leon also introduced himself as the king of Lionheart from the Lionheart kingdom. Leon couldn't believe he hadn't noticed this sooner. Beatrice said not to be cautious because she only wanted to greet the person who saved her kingdom. Leon responded that it was not an appropriate time for a noble lady like her to make visits. Beatrice reasoned that she was being watched. Leon was surprised to learn that the queen was being watched and by whom. Beatrice told him that the general and his knights were guarding her while keeping her imprisoned. Leon couldn't believe Beatrice's words because the general was not someone who could be unfaithful. Beatrice, in a hurry, told Leon that there was no more time. She claimed to have a favor to ask of Leon. Leon told Beatrice that he would decide after hearing it. Beatrice asked Leon to kill the general and his knights. And if he did so, Beatrice promised to give him this kingdom. She also told Leon to inspect the floors beneath the castle grounds because there was something the general was hiding there. Shortly after, the general arrived, addressing Leon as Lionheart. He apologized for disturbing him in the middle of the night and said he would open the door. After the general opened the door, Leon asked him what kind of nonsense it was to enter a king's bedroom at night. The general acknowledged that it was rude, but he said the situation was urgent. Leon immediately told him that he met the queen. But the general only replied, "Is that so?" Leon asked the general, "Wouldn't you question anything despite the fact that your own queen is out at night?" The general's reasoning was that the queen always behaved like that. Leon was disappointed with him for leaving a lone royal while demons were creeping throughout the kingdom. The general's reasoning was that the demons supposedly don't attack at night. Leon said it was nonsense. Leon wondered when demons ever cared about whether it was day or night. The general should have known this, Leon thought. This kind of foolishness couldn't befit a general. With these thoughts in mind, Leon asked the general why he seemed so certain of his words. The general just apologized for his foolishness and said he needed to leave. But before he could go, Leon informed the general that the queen had complained to him that she was being kept imprisoned by the general. The general replied that it was not something to be concerned about for outsiders. Then he closed the door. Because of this, Leon became suspicious. He thought there was something he didn't know about this place. To uncover the truth, He believed he should inspect the floors beneath the castle grounds. He called for Sir Spin and told him that he had something he wanted him to check. The demons were approaching to start their attack on the palace. They were shouting that they wanted to sever the heads of their enemies and torture their bodies while watching them do it. Their leader, Androgen, told them that whoever first climbed the castle walls would be rewarded with 100 slaves. As these demons were shouting, suddenly a spear hurled towards them. It exploded, and many demons perished. They were surprised to see the souls of the fallen demons separating from their bodies. These souls were being sucked into the Holy Grail. They were shocked to see Leon, who said, "You misguided beings, ignorant of death. You will not understand. How could creatures like insects, driven only by primal instincts, comprehend anything? Listen, vile insects. The king of Lionheart, in the realm of the Pantheon, will teach you, evil ones, the value of life. Come, you filthy souls. Here is your fear." General Ricardo went to the underground. The guarding soldiers asked him what brought him there, as they assumed he was in the midst of battle. General Ricardo said the outside matters would be handled later. The issue, he said, concerned the seal. He asked the soldiers if it was functioning properly. As they walked in, they were followed by the hidden Sir Spin. General Ricardo said they weren't far. Just a little more patience, and 100 years of grudges would be completed. He opened the curtain and peeked at what they were guarding. Because of this, Sir Spin saw it. The defeated demons were captured and restrained by Leon's group. While walking, Daesung noticed one of them stumble. He approached and advised them to be careful. However, he was suddenly surprised to see that the fallen demon was a woman. She pleaded with him to release her. And if he did, she promised to do something that Daesung would desire. When Daesung attempted to touch the demon woman, her corruption resistance suddenly activated. Because of this, he saw the true appearance of the demon tempting him and swiftly punched her in the face. The demon wondered how an ordinary human could resist her temptation. Daesung was shocked to discover the true nature of demon seduction. He nearly fell into its trap. Shortly after, Leon approached and asked what caused the commotion. The two became nervous, and Daesung quickly pointed to the demon. Leon became angry at the demon for attempting to seduce his soldier with its vile body. The demon begged for forgiveness, but Leon suddenly kicked it in the face. He scolded the demon, saying, "How dare a filthy and vile creature like you raise your voice? I don't need your answer." Meanwhile, the demon, looking at him, thought that Leon seemed more demonic than a demon. As they walked, Kim Jinsu asked Your Highness if it wasn't puzzling. They certainly achieved a great victory, but people's reactions were rather tepid. Leon explained that even a low-level demon could easily seduce and destroy people. The war against demons was relentless. That's why only a few elites were truly happy about the victory. That's the reality of the war against demons. Leon suggested making the citizens themselves hang the demons they catch and making them watch the vile souls of the demons as they die. Kim Jinsu quickly responded with, "Yes, Your Majesty." Now, they returned with a victory, but no one greeted them. Sir Spin also succeeded in carrying out Leon's orders to him. The guarding soldiers were surprised to see Leon's group approaching. They were stopped by one guard who said they didn't have permission to come closer. But before he could finish his sentence, Leon suddenly kicked them and opened the door. They entered the underground, and Jinsu wondered if it was okay for them to be doing this. Dohan advised him to stop worrying about such matters as it would be easier for him. Shortly after, Daesung spotted something and called his companions to look at it. They were surprised to see a place like this beneath the castle. They noticed something there, and in front of them appeared to be a bed. Leon wondered if this was the secret the queen had mentioned to him. It was clear they were hiding something. Leon approached to examine what it was. When Leon opened the curtain, he saw Queen Beatrice lying down. Jinsu and Daesung's faces were filled with surprise and blushes at what they saw. They were amazed by the beauty of the woman. Even the other hunters who saw couldn't help but drool at her beauty. Leon told them to stop and not be tempted by this dark energy. But Leon thought his aura wasn't very effective in this case. Therefore, he needed to physically stop them one by one. Leon was amazed at what Daesung did, hurting himself to resist temptation. Leon advised Daesung to take deep breaths through his mouth and breathe slowly. As Leon helped Daesung clear his mind, General Ricardo arrived. He was surprised to see that the queen was not able to tempt Leon. Because of this, Leon realized that none of their group, including General Ricardo, was being tempted. General Ricardo reasoned that they were used to it. But his answer seemed nonsensical to Leon. The seductive behavior of the queen is a magic close to a curse. It's not something you get used to. Leon had encountered someone with this kind of power before. The Lady of Pleasure. Seduction to entice and tempt all living beings. A demonic pleasure that ensnares beings into corruption. But this one is different. Leon despises and detests demons more than others, yet he doesn't feel such energy from the queen. Leon wondered why none of them were disturbed. Leon invoked the divine blessing of dream and death. He wished for its blessing to be upon his caretaker. It promptly responded to the call of Ariana's knight, who was the owner of the lion heart. The divinity of dream and death, Plu, appeared and greeted Leon. As per Leon's request, the knight of Ariana and the bearer of the lion heart, Plu, descended to him. Plu acknowledged the presence of the corrupting demons, affirming their role in sowing chaos. In this endless dream, they fostered a tainted consciousness, one from which awakening was imperative. Utilizing her power, Plu unveiled the true form of the demons of corruption. The surroundings gradually darkened, and soon, cracks fractured the darkness, revealing the true form of the general and the other soldiers as Death Knights. Leon now comprehended why he hadn't discerned it earlier. It was an authority, a power to craft an entire world. The Death Knights surged forward to shield the queen and the seal. Leon grasped that this gateway of dreams originated with the queen. Thus, if he were to confront her, this dream might naturally dissipate. However, before he could proceed, Leon found himself suddenly assailed by the general and a Death Knight at his side. Despite the ambush, he successfully repelled their attacks. Annoyed by the breach of knightly conduct, Leon questioned the general's integrity, only to receive a cynical admission of long-abandoned honor in return. Undeterred, Leon defiantly challenged their combined assault, questioning their ability to thwart him even as they attacked from multiple angles. The general, astonished by Leon's prowess, couldn't fathom how he single-handedly overcame their elite bodyguards. Drawing closer, Leon urged the general to awaken from this futile dream, warning that failure to do so would condemn him to an eternity ensnared within its illusory confines. As Leon poised to deliver the final blow to the general, a peculiar realization dawned upon him. While others might falter in their allegiance, an apostle could not waver. This prompted Leon to question why the queen had tasked him with eliminating them. Perhaps, he pondered, the queen wasn't the villain in this tale after all. Addressing the general, Leon demanded to know what transpired between him and the queen. In response, the general divulged that the queen had struck a pact with a demon. Impressed by her unwavering bravery, the demon proposed a bargain: to harbor the essence of corruption within her and orchestrate the kingdom's downfall once again in a century's time. In exchange for her cooperation, the demon vowed to spare her and her people. Faced with imminent peril, the queen reluctantly accepted, even if it meant falling into the demon's trap. 5 years elapsed, marked by ceaseless cycles of pleasure and torment, as more individuals succumbed to corruption and lost their senses. By day, she bore witness to demons slaughtering her people, while by night, the whispers of corruption haunted her thoughts. Initially, she endured the ordeal, but her ultimate adversary proved to be the formidable great demon of pleasure. Its trap was insidiously cunning, devoid of any escape clause within the deal she had struck. Those who dared to defy the contract would be condemned to wander as lost spirits in the netherworld. As the century drew to a close, all would inevitably be conscripted into servitude to corruption. Gradually descending into madness, she watched helplessly as her once proud kingdom crumbled, the essence of corruption implanted within her relentlessly tempting the queen. After 50 years had passed, her loyal knight could resist his desires no longer and entered the queen's bed. Witnessing this betrayal, General Ricardo Buns made a solemn decision. Recognizing the impossibility for the living to withstand the relentless temptation, they devised a plan to sacrifice themselves. Their objective: to safeguard the queen and maintain their loyalty, even if it meant tarnishing their honor, wandering as spirits in the netherworld, and ultimately becoming servants of corruption upon the agreement's conclusion. Their unwavering duty remained to protect the queen at all costs. And that concludes the latest chapter of our story. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated for the next chapters. Thank you so much for watching. Chapters 33 to 36. They had taken their own lives, transforming into Death Knights, rendering them immune to the Queen's temptation. Subsequently, they sealed the Queen. That seal. It has endured for 80 years. All they managed was to induce her slumber for half a day. Now, Leon comprehended the Queen's request for him to end their lives. Moments later, Goddess Plu asked Leon if he could sense it. Leon responded affirmatively, yes. Together, they perceived the ominous aura of approaching demons. In response, Leon roused the soldiers of the King of Lionheart from their slumber, questioning how long they intended to sleep. As they awakened, their astonishment mounted upon encountering the Death Knights, prompting them to inquire about the events that had transpired. They overheard the soldiers outside insisting on the need to fulfill their duties. Subsequently, Leon ventured outside, where the soldiers informed him that the demons had breached the castle walls. Witnessing the countless horde of demons, Daesung remained resolute, unfaltering in the face of the overwhelming threat. He directed his fellow soldiers to raise their shields in preparation for the confrontation. They recalled their Majesty's instructions to hold their positions steadfastly and obstruct the advancing enemies. They knew that if they could endure long enough, their Majesty would come to their aid. The demons unleashed their dreaded skill, Frenzification, where pain twisted into perverse pleasure. Despite this supernatural assault, the demons pressed forward relentlessly. Jagged Spin and Leon braced themselves, readying to confront the impending onslaught of enemies. As the demons relentlessly closed in, Leon summoned his loyal horse, Stallion, amidst the overwhelming tide. Despite the sheer multitude of demonic forces, they valiantly attempted to hold their ground, striving to obstruct the advancing horde. Initially resigned to entrusting their fate to their Majesty's prowess, their hopes faltered when they glanced back to see Leon surrounded by swarming demons. In that despairing moment, they braced for what seemed inevitable, their demise. Yet, suddenly, a brilliant burst of light erupted, dispersing the encroaching demons. To their astonishment, it emanated from Leon, who was fervently summoning the Lionhearts. It was as if their hero had transcended into a state akin to a Super Saiyan. The demons of pleasure wield formidable strength through sheer numbers rather than prowess in combat. Their tactic of overwhelming reinforcement poses a persistent challenge, vexing Leon enough to compel direct confrontation. This strategy is a hallmark of the great demons of pleasure. Consequently, Leon realizes the necessity for greater power, questioning if his current abilities suffice. Yet, deep within, he understands the imperative nature of the task ahead, recognizing the need to rise to the occasion. Moments later, they were startled by a sudden cry of "Charge! Forward!" emanating from groups of Death Knights. They surged ahead, plunging into battle against the demonic forces. As the chaos unfolded, the general approached Leon, who greeted him with a grin, remarking, "Seems like you finally awakened from your slumber." In response, the general affirmed his enduring loyalty to the Queen. Leon nodded in appreciation of his steadfastness. The general recounted their history of countless defeats, yet expressed willingness to place their faith in Leon if he could catalyze change. Motivated by their trust, Leon resolved to demonstrate his worth and fulfill their expectations. He emerged as a beacon of hope, even amidst a world besieged by demons and the withdrawal of the gods into his heart. In that critical moment, even the hunters and the loyal knights of the Queen found inspiration in his resolve. Leon invoked the power of the divinity of war and fire, seeking its strength. In reply, the divinity spoke, "You are still offering yourself. Without you, this fire shall fade." Undeterred, Leon declared to the gods that he would persist, standing resolute until they could stand independently on their own accord. As Leon tapped into the power of Pitos, the greatest warhorse of the sacred realms of war and fire, a transformation overtook him. "War! Fire! Your warhorse seeks the flames of battle," he proclaimed, driven by the desire to vanquish the evil within. Two majestic golden bulls materialized, and Leon mounted them with purpose. Expressing gratitude to his loyal steed, he allowed it a moment of respite. With swift determination, he brandished the divine spear and rallied the soldiers, leading them into the heart of the conflict. As Leon forged ahead, the general issued a caution, deeming it perilous for him to face the front lines alone. Undeterred, Leon pressed forward, leading the charge against the demons, bolstered by the presence of the Death Knights. The bulls surged ahead, colliding with the oncoming demonic horde. Witnessing this bold display, both the general and the demon Androgen stood astonished, taken aback by the unexpected turn of events. Androgen found himself incredulous at the unfolding events, puzzled by Leon's relentless advance and their inability to halt him even momentarily. In a desperate attempt to thwart Leon's progress, Androgen commanded his followers to unleash the power of the magic cannons upon Leon's group. However, to their dismay, the effectiveness of the attack was nullified by Leon's arrow nullification, rendering it futile against him. Frustrated and driven by desperation, Androgen launched an attack, hurtling himself towards Leon with ferocity. His strike aimed at the mount Leon rode, shattering it and forcibly separating Leon from the bulls. Bewildered by his inability to sense Leon's presence, Androgen scanned his surroundings in search of his elusive adversary. Unbeknownst to him, Leon descended from above, wielding the divine spear with precision as he launched a surprise attack against Androgen. Consumed by rage, Androgen rallied his followers to assail Leon, yet Leon offered them only a brief respite, a mere minute, for his comrades to endure. Androgen struggled to comprehend how a single individual could wield such profound influence compared to previous encounters, yet he acknowledged the formidable strength exhibited by the Knights of the Fallen Nation, bolstered by Leon's empowering buffs. Androgen inquired of Leon whether he was responsible for Dothraden's demise. Leon's smile widened as he described the malevolent demon, likening it to a grotesque figure lugging around a massive sack of fat. With a grim determination, Leon recounted how he had vanquished some of these demons by tearing them asunder. He warned Androgen that he would soon meet a similar fate, albeit with the added torment of having his extra limbs torn asunder by Leon's hand. Enraged and fueled by vengeance, Androgen swore to eliminate Leon at any cost. He launched an assault, propelling magically charged blades towards Leon, but Leon effortlessly deflected them with ease. In retaliation, Leon inflicted damage upon Androgen's arm, further intensifying the confrontation. With steely resolve, Leon reminded Androgen of his earlier vow to rend his limbs apart. Seizing the moment, Leon lunged towards Androgen, intent on delivering a decisive blow. However, Androgen's countenance transformed into a sly smile as he tapped into the power of his crown. The crown of desire, a symbol of yielding to natural and fierce desires, held sway over Androgen's abilities. No living being could resist its allure. Yet, to Androgen's astonishment, Leon remained steadfast, untouched by its influence. As a result, Androgen suffered significant blows from Leon's onslaught. Puzzled by Leon's immunity, Androgen questioned how he managed to evade the illusion of desire. Leon's response was resolute. Even the Lady of Pleasure couldn't sway him, so how could Androgen? This revelation left Androgen bewildered, sensing that something was amiss. Despite his confusion, Androgen realized the urgent need to escape. However, before he could act, he was suddenly tackled from behind by the Golden Bull. As Leon approached him and stood atop his fallen form, Androgen accused Leon of cowardice, citing the intervention of a divine being in their battle. He argued that knights should uphold principles of fairness. Leon acknowledged the dishonor of such interference in a duel, yet asserted that in the face of demonic threats, honor held little significance. This was not a duel, it was an annihilation. Androgen, stung by Leon's words, accused him of racism. However, despite the accusation, Androgen, the demon of pleasure and corruption, met his demise at Leon's hands. The kingdom thrived from its very inception, basking in prosperity and tranquility. It was a time when all believed this peace would endure indefinitely, a sentiment shared by her as well. However, this idyllic existence was shattered when the demons initiated their invasion. The wise mage queen foresaw the spirits of those lowly beings encroaching upon her kingdom. Initially, it appeared to be a mere repetition of past victories, instilling hope in the hearts of her people. However, this hope was short-lived. The queen soon realized that these beings possessed a resilience beyond death itself. They did not perish even in death's embrace. From the outset, the queen harbored a grim understanding that this war was futile. Regardless of their victories or the demons slain, the cycle of destruction would inevitably repeat itself. Imminent ruin loomed over the kingdom. Recognizing the futility of endless conflict, a demon approached the queen with a proposition: to embrace the essence of corruption and hasten the kingdom's downfall within a century. In exchange for the queen's safety, the demons would cease their assaults on the world, restoring it to its former state. Without hesitation or pause to question the feasibility, the queen swiftly accepted the deal. Despite the risk of being used as bait by the demon, it was the only avenue she saw to safeguard her loved ones. Thus, the decline of the Sparrow Kingdom commenced, caught in a relentless cycle between the seduction of pleasure and the corrosion of corruption. The kingdom's once intelligent citizens, loyal knights, and proud queen swiftly succumbed to the allure of evil. Once they fell and embraced darkness, there was no redemption. Ultimately, a knight succumbed to his desires and violated the sanctity of the queen's chamber. In response, the general took decisive action, imprisoning the queen in chambers deep beneath the ground. Then he chose to end his own life, becoming a tormented ghost haunting the depths of the kingdom. For a decade, regret and devastation enveloped her, trapped in a cycle of downfall she could not escape, despite foreseeing its inevitable conclusion. Desperate to hasten an end to the nightmare, she wasted no time following Androgen's defeat, gathering his belongings, his crown and the weapons he wielded in battle. Although Jagged Spin found the weapons appealing for their high-strength metal, they were tainted by the essence of evil. Leon speculated that they imprisoned souls, but recognized the possibility of their removal. With this in mind, he entrusted them to Jagged Spin, hoping to rid them of their malevolent influence. As Leon pondered the fate of the crown, he was summoned by the goddess, who expressed a desire to inspect the artifact he had acquired through cleansing evil. Upon examining the crown, the goddess discerned that it embodied the essence of all the malevolent pleasures, a symbol of the pain-inflicting demons, ensnaring the youth in futile illusions. Recognizing the potential utility within such an object, Leon relinquished the crown to the goddess, trusting that she might uncover something of value within its depths. The goddess promptly expressed her gratitude and congratulations to Leon for his noble act, conveying the joy and gratitude of the pantheon for his honor and glory. Encouraged by the goddess, the god of war begrudgingly appeared before Leon to offer his acknowledgement, albeit with brevity: "Good job." The goddess, however, reiterated her advice to the god of war, urging him to embrace honesty in his interactions. Leon approached Dream and War with a favor to ask. He requested permission to take possession of the souls of the Dark Knights. War inquired if Leon wished for him to escort these souls to the Paradise of Souls, thereby freeing them from the cycle of life and death. Dream interjected, remarking that War's phrasing was somewhat severe. She suggested to War that there was no need for his intervention, as the cycle of life and death fell under her jurisdiction. War questioned Dream, expressing skepticism about allowing the undead entry into paradise. This prompted them to pause and contemplate. Dream then clarified to Leon that those who defied the natural order of death would face punishment and be excluded from the cycle of death. After a period of contemplation, the queen awoke and approached them, imploring forgiveness for her knights. She beseeched the revered deities of the otherworld to reconsider her as the fallen queen of the lost kingdom. However, Dream intervened, addressing the queen's loyal knights directly, conveying that none in the pantheon would accept their souls into paradise. Nevertheless, their good deeds outweigh the bad. Their unwavering loyalty had moved even the gods. Upon Leon, the king of Lionheart's request, Dream was entrusted with the care of their souls, indicating the highest form of approval. It was believed that under Dream's guidance, their tainted souls would be purified, granting them a chance at redemption and a new lease on life. Dream presented a solution to the queen, purportedly the sole path for her knights' souls to find peace. It entailed the queen becoming Dream's priestess and aiding the king of Lionheart in spreading faith. Once the afterlife, under Dream's dominion, became active again, she promised to grant the queen's knights an opportunity for reincarnation. This was deemed the most viable path for their redemption and eventual tranquility. The queen was deeply taken aback by Dream's proposal, but she solemnly vowed to comply with the goddess's instructions. Following their discussion, Leon and Jagged Spin joined the queen. Leon inquired about the casualties, and Daesung reported that most of the wounded had been healed thanks to the Holy Grail, but tragically, 6 had perished. Given the relentless onslaught of demons, such losses were considered relatively minor. Following a solemn prayer for the fallen, Leon directed his soldiers to compile a list of the deceased and notify their families. He emphasized that the pantheon would forever honor and remember their sacrifices. With the rituals concluded, Leon extended an invitation for all to return. The Hunter Association swiftly mobilized all available hunters to address the unprecedented fluctuating gate. A week later, they emerged victorious, having successfully cleared the gate. Association President Oh Kang-hyuk registered Beatrice as a survivor and expressed his condolences for the fallen hunters, acknowledging their sacrifices in the line of duty. Oh Kang-hyuk reviewed the videos provided by Sir Spin, witnessing the harrowing scene of the fluctuating red gate and the formidable great demon within. He remarked that it was a miracle that there weren't more casualties. Leon expressed his intention to personally meet with the families of the deceased, considering them his own soldiers and deeming it the least he could do to honor their sacrifice. Kang-hyuk cautioned Leon about the potential hardships he might face during these encounters. However, Leon reassured Kang-hyuk of his understanding and empathy towards the family's grief, believing that his presence might offer them some solace. In response, Leon urged Kang-hyuk to release the videos to raise awareness and mobilize more hunters, emphasizing the imminent threat of a demon invasion. He stressed the urgent need to bolster their forces with additional soldiers and knights to prepare for the impending onslaught. At Naju Plains, within the Pantheon building, Leon pondered the suspicious movements of the demons, recognizing the urgent need for assistance. Determined to take action, he resolved to embark on the mission himself this time. Venturing into a paradise, Leon was greeted warmly by his devoted servants, who joyfully welcomed the greatest Grail Guardian with reverence and delight. As Leon strolled, he was accompanied by the esteemed Great Saintess, Anjak Proteja, while being warmly greeted by Sir Gildas and Sir Antok. Amidst their journey, they encountered the former king of the Lionheart, Argan Majesty Lionheart. Leon humbly sought forgiveness for disturbing the king's rest, inquiring if he had heard about the arrival of new souls. Argan Majesty pointed out the soldiers nearby, revealing that it had been 180 years since the last influx of souls. Assuring Leon of their well-being, Argan Majesty sensed a deeper purpose for Leon's visit and prompted him to share his intentions. Leon expressed his desire to convene with the gods of the Pantheon for a reunion and discussion, seeking the wisdom of their predecessors given the urgency of the situation. Argan Majesty suggested they head to the forest and offered Pethalion for Leon's use during their journey. As Leon soared through the skies astride Pethalion, he couldn't help but envision racing through those fields once more, this time alongside his loyal horse, Stallion. Yet, he understood that such dreams would remain unfulfilled unless he left behind a worthy successor. Upon arriving at the forest, the deer sages of the woodlands greeted Leon warmly. Inquiring about his presence in the paradise of the dead, they eagerly awaited his response. Leon conveyed his desire to reunite with Gunrar, the youngest sage who also happened to be his friend. In the presence of his longtime friend Gunrar, Leon conveyed his urgent need for Gunrar's seedling. Reminding Gunrar of their past discussions about planting a seedling in the paradise, Leon emphasized the gravity of the situation at hand. Gunrar, taken aback by Leon's apparent urgency, questioned the extent of his haste. In response, Leon revealed the dire state of their home world, Earth, currently besieged by demonic invasion. He explained that recent expeditions had confirmed his suspicions, indicating that the demons were aware of his presence and had begun their nefarious schemes. Leon feared that, like the Empire, Earth would rot from within as demons infiltrated its ranks. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Gunrar swiftly produced the needed seedling, entrusting Leon with its care. Expressing his gratitude, Leon thanked Gunrar for his assistance. Gunrar, in turn, reciprocated the sentiment, expressing his joy at reuniting with his old friend after such a prolonged absence. Before parting ways, Gunrar imparted one final piece of advice to Leon, to refrain from rushing into the paradise. Realizing that Leon was preparing to depart, the former king bestowed upon him a significant gift. Recognizing what he believed Leon needed most in the current circumstances, he presented him with the reins of a renowned animal trainer, capable of taming even the most ferocious of beasts, including monsters. Following the former king's generous gift, Sir Gradas presented Leon with the legendary training manual, recognizing Leon's dedication to training his forces from the outset. Additionally, Saintess Anjak bestowed upon Leon the holy relic of a saintess. Despite his initial hesitation due to its traditional inheritance, Anjak assured Leon that as an agent of the Pantheon, he would face no scrutiny. She expressed confidence that the relic would safeguard him until his holy sword was reborn. Gratefully accepting these gifts, Leon expressed his heartfelt thanks to everyone. He pledged to make the most of their offerings, promising to utilize them to their fullest potential in his ongoing endeavors. Upon returning, Leon sought permission to visit Queen Beatrice. Approaching her door, he hesitated until granted permission. When Queen Beatrice opened the door and questioned why he had not entered, Leon explained that he had not received her permission. Amused by his formality, Queen Beatrice smiled and invited him inside, indicating her approval of his visit. And that concludes the latest chapter of our story. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated for the next chapters. Thank you so much for watching. Chapters 37 to 40. When Leon entered the room, he promptly apologized for not having a better place prepared for the queen. In response, the queen expressed her belief that it was unreasonable to expect suitable accommodations for a queen of a ruined nation and asked for Leon's forgiveness for her perceived rudeness. Leon reassured the queen not to worry, though inwardly he speculated that perhaps the queen couldn't control her aura. Leon then mentioned to the queen that the divinity within her was exerting pressure on the essence of corruption but was unable to completely eradicate it. He added that this delicate balance needed to be maintained for the time being. Leon offered the queen a farewell drink for the nights, and she realized it was the extent of what she could do. Since her arrival 2 days prior, Leon inquired about her adjustment to the new environment. The queen admitted she would need more time, as the place she found herself in was vastly different from her own world. Leon then reassured the queen, suggesting she didn't necessarily have to adapt. Instead, he advised her to maintain determination and uphold her own principles. He explained that a true ruler should embody virtue wherever they are, and that individuals who commit crimes in any world should aspire to follow the path of a king. The queen responded, remarking on the mindset resembling that of an invader. However, Leon countered, stating it was different. He asserted that causing harm to the world out of selfish desire was the ambition of an individual, whereas helping and guiding the people was the enlightenment of a true king of the lion heart. Hearing Leon's words, the queen came to understand the mentality necessary for fighting demons for centuries. She realized that Leon was not only confronting demons but also embracing a divine quest bestowed upon him by the divinities. Leon then extended an offer to the queen to become the ruler of the Sparrow Kingdom and join him in his quest. The queen agreed, expressing her determination to repay Leon for saving her kingdom. However, Leon added one thing: Ki, the archdemon of pleasure. In response, the queen pledged to learn whatever was necessary to eliminate that thing. Leon affirmed his commitment, stating that if it meant eradicating those vile parasites, he was willing to do whatever it took. Leon's heart raced every time he demonstrated how he eliminated souls with their revered divine laws. In their kingdom, demons were traditionally executed by boiling them, yet they would persistently return no matter how many times they were killed. Therefore, Leon aimed to inflict lasting trauma upon them, knowing they were selfish beings who prioritized their own pain above all else. Leon asked the queen if she had ever hammered nails under the demon's claws, noting that it was when they screamed the loudest. The queen laughed and replied that she had indeed skinned and rolled them over nails. Both of them shared a laugh and tossed their glasses. Under a clear, dark sky, Hari hurried over when she spotted the queen and Leon. She greeted them both and expressed her hope that they were doing well. Leon then instructed her to pour them some tea. As Leon held the paper cup of hot tea, Leon advised Hari that she could work for Queen Beatrice for a while but emphasized that she should dress and behave appropriately in the queen's presence. The queen interjected, suggesting that they didn't need to go to such lengths. However, Leon insisted that a royal required suitable treatment and attendance. The queen inquired if she was speaking to Hari, and Hari confirmed her identity to Her Majesty. Impressed, the queen mentioned that she could sense a potent fiery energy emanating from Hari and expressed her desire to examine it further. Leon then instructed Hari to wield her sword, acknowledging her dedicated service to him and asserting that she deserved to be rewarded. Leon requested Hari to demonstrate her sword technique for him to assess it, to which she responded affirmatively, expressing her gratitude for the honor. Leon then handed her a sword, and Hari positioned herself to begin showcasing her technique. Observing her movements, Leon remarked that her swings were too expansive. When asked if it was for using her skill, Hanhari confirmed. Leon proceeded to demonstrate that while power was necessary when wielding a sword, the movements should be concise. He then provided guidance on how to execute the technique correctly. Satisfied with the demonstration, Leon remarked that practicing the technique should be relatively straightforward and instructed Hanhari to repeat it 10,000 times a day for practice. Leon turned to Queen Beatrice for her assessment, and she remarked that Hanhari seemed to lack control over the fire, noting that it dissipated too easily. She advised Hanhari to focus on concentration rather than simply imbuing the sword with the mana of fire and swinging it as is. Queen Beatrice explained that a concentrated flame would not dissipate easily. Queen Beatrice proceeded to demonstrate her sword technique, illustrating how she used the concentrated flames for a deadly blow. She showed them how to release the flames with precision, simulating a powerful and focused attack using fire magic. Advising Hanhari, the queen emphasized that she only needed to concentrate the flames enough for the sword to reach an intense level of heat. That night, Hanhari felt overwhelmed by the sheer volume of tasks ahead. Not only did she have to report to the section chief as well as the association president, but she also needed to procure food for the new soldiers in training and acquire new weapons and equipment. However, she found herself at a loss as to where to find a blacksmith. To add to her concerns, she remembered the matter of taxes, a topic the academy had failed to cover, leaving her feeling unprepared for such administrative responsibilities. Suddenly, Hanhari heard Sir Yap questioning whether accounting work processing was not possible. As Sir Yappy attempted to request the division of accounting tasks for maximized efficiency, Hanhari realized that Sir Yappy was a supercomputer, so she was confident it would be an easy task for him. Hanhari proceeded to explain everything to Sir Yappy, hoping that the supercomputer could assist her in processing all her concerns. As Sir Yappy meticulously analyzed each aspect in a detailed manner, Hanhari found herself sweating profusely. The intensity of Sir Yappy's analysis overwhelmed her, and she began to feel as though she was losing her grip on reality as she listened to him. Hari, although not fully comprehending, was amazed at how helpful Sir Yappy was. She mentioned her need for servant clothing, specifically a maid uniform. Sir Yappy then analyzed the Lionheart Kingdom, where maid uniforms resembling those worn in middle-aged European kingdoms were common attire for servants. Utilizing big data, Sir Yappy ordered a reasonable maid uniform based on popular trends, much to Hari's gratitude. Unbeknownst to her, the big data Sir Yappy referenced was compiled from online brands, resulting in the purchase of the most popular item, a subtle manifestation of the influence of big data. As a bus pulled into the terminal, students began to disembark. Among them were Han Suho, younger brother of Hanhari, from Hunter Academy, and Kim Jae-hyuk. Kim Jae-hyuk was surprised by the large number of people who emerged from the bus, far more than he had anticipated. On the other hand, Han Suho had expected the turnout after witnessing the demonstration. A few days prior, Leon visited the Hunter Academy with an unconventional announcement. Instead of recruiting soldiers, he sought seedlings of knights whom he would instruct in swordsmanship, spearmanship, horse riding, and theology. During his presentation, one of the students abruptly stood up and declared their specialization in archery. In response, Leon rebuked the student, stating that such an attitude was better suited for a soldier, indicating a failure to embody the qualities of a knight. Initially, all of the students grumbled about Leon's audacious and arrogant demeanor. In response, Leon proposed that if they studied theology, he could impart simple divine laws to them. Demonstrating something that showcased his overwhelming power, Leon left the students convinced. They were shocked by what they witnessed, leading them to believe that it enabled anyone to use magic. However, Cheon So-yeon disagreed. She asserted that it wasn't magic. To her, labeling something like that as magic was inaccurate. Kim Jae-hyuk was taken aback by Cheon So-yeon's unexpected presence, recalling her recent anger over being called a peasant. Han Suho inquired about the Divine Sword Guild, given So-yeon's familial connection as the guild master's granddaughter. So-yeon responded, expressing her inability to resist attending after witnessing the events unfold. She then showed them the Pantheon TV channel, where a video featuring divine laws and fluctuating gates was playing. To their astonishment, the video prominently featured Hanhari, Suho's sister. Kim Jae-hyuk was amazed to see Hari's hard work showcased, with Suho feeling confident that his sister was excelling in her endeavors. On the other side, Sexy Cutie Maid Uniform, 5-piece full set, Its use is for special event for your partner with a satisfaction rate of 9.98 stars. Perplexed, Han Hari asked Sir Yappy if he was certain this was the correct item. Sir Yappy confidently responded that he had referenced big data, asserting that numbers did not lie. The students beyond the gate overheard their conversation, and one of them, recognizing his sister's voice, decided to surprise her by knocking on the door. Han Hari was startled by the sudden knock and realized they had unexpected guests. She attempted to stop Sir Yappy, but he had already grabbed the door and opened it abruptly. This sudden intrusion caused Han Hari's face to flush red with shyness. With teary eyes, she greeted their guests, feeling a mix of embarrassment and surprise. Han Suho questioned his sister about her attire, to which Han Hari responded that she hadn't chosen to wear it willingly. Moments later, Leon arrived and also questioned Hari about her clothing. With a stern expression, he criticized Hari for her appearance, deeming her attire as dirty and ordering her to change immediately. Witnessing Leon's harsh reprimand, Sir Yappy quickly made an excuse about the second-term trainee food time, claiming he needed to distribute salt water, and hastily fled from the scene. The reunion between Suho and his esteemed sister turned out to be less than ideal, leaving a sour taste in their mouths. At the Jeju Island, where there's a red gate, two siblings from the Golden Lion Guild arrived, as their guild's financial situation is not looking good at the moment. Everything they had was taken away from them at the Changju Gate, so they needed to find a way to make up for their losses. Golden Lion Guild, Wang Jiamchul and 40 others. Moments later, someone arrived and greeted Jiamchul. Jiamchul teasingly remarked about the individual's disappearance after the government blackmailing incident, then inquired whether he had been selected for the mission. Li Yongwen from Phoenix Guild. Li Yongwen retorted to Jiamchul's teasing, remarking that at least he hadn't witnessed any of his guild members' deaths. As the two continued to banter and exchange insults, Jiamchul's sister sighed and questioned whether they were behaving like children, wondering about the point of their argument. To her surprise, someone suddenly responded from behind her. It was Ha Yuri, an S-class hunter from the Phoenix Guild. As they gathered before the dungeon break, 3 S-rank hunters and 1 almost S-rank hunter believed their combined strength would be sufficient to clear a lower black S-rank gate. However, upon entering the dungeon gate, they were horrified to discover numerous casualties strewn throughout the area. An adversary confronted them, warning against attempting to save those they deemed insignificant before him. He introduced himself as Geovric, the Honorable Lionheart's Grail Knight, and declared his intention to bestow divine punishment upon the hunters. A system materialized and announced to the hunters that their quest was to save those being slaughtered, with the clear condition being to defeat the magnificent Geovric. Geovric questioned the outsiders about why they had harmed the royal military, cautioning them that the actions of his warhammer would depend on their answer. Li Yongwen responded, stating that it appeared to be a misunderstanding. He explained to Geovric that the knight had initiated the attack on them first, leaving them with no choice but to defend themselves. Geovric then admonished the knight, reminding him that he had warned him his impatience would lead to ruin. He questioned the knight for daring to tarnish the name of the goddess with his rash actions. Geovric then apologized to the outsiders on behalf of the knight. This led Li Yongwen to believe that dealing with Geovric might be easier and the situation could improve. However, to their surprise, Geovric powered up and stated, "For an inferior mercenary to kill 6 soldiers of the kingdom, the sin is severe." He declared that since 6 had perished, he would exact retribution by taking 60 heads. Back at the camp, Han Hari led the visitors on a tour, showing them around the area. Kim Jae-hyuk observed that it was just countryside scenery, lacking modern facilities or medical lounges. He also wondered why the people at the cafeteria were only drinking water. Arriving at their destination, the visitors were shocked by the scenes unfolding before them. Han Hari explained that they had reached the soldier training grounds. Kim Jae-hyuk, feeling as though he might be dreaming, questioned Han Hari about the situation. She reassured him that it was indeed real training. Han Hari went on to explain that there was deeper significance behind this form of training. She referenced His Majesty's words about the distinct training manual for knights. Despite the harsh conditions, she added, they were all fortunate. Moments later, Leon arrived and announced that there were students visiting to determine if they wished to join his military. He ordered his soldiers to pause their training, and Han Hari swiftly prepared His Majesty's seat. Leon then instructed Hari to begin preparing to become a mission knight as well, urging her to aim higher. Agreeing to his directive, Hari then joined the students at the stand, and they began. Leon made an announcement that he would select the most talented individuals among the group to become his disciples, who would receive personal instruction from him. Han Hari patted her brother, advising him never to be rude to His Majesty. She expressed her concern for his well-being, prompting him to heed her advice. Then, Leon declared that he needed to assess their skills first. He commanded everyone to raise their swords and attack him, setting the limit until the last one standing fell. Leon reassured them that he possessed the Holy Grail, so they need not worry about injuries. With around 40 individuals present, Leon expressed his happiness at the prospect of anyone managing to land an attack on him. He then ordered them to advance. Leon began by attacking the first person, flicking him on the forehead. Confused, Leon questioned why he hadn't seen anything and instructed them to draw their weapons and come at him. After a while, Leon managed to knock everyone down, each of them sporting lumps on their heads. Disappointed, Leon had expected them to be at least on the level of a knight-errant. They sure didn't hesitate. Initially taken aback, Kim Jae-hyuk eventually gave it his all. Han Hari admitted that Leon was indeed very strong, feeling as though she was participating in a boss raid where there were no openings for attack. Now that they had all recuperated enough, Leon resumed his explanation. He delineated the difference between training a soldier and training a knight, emphasizing that while the former involved endless physical exertion, the latter was more complex. Leon announced that Group 1, those who had endured until the end, would need to reach the level of a kingdom knight, while the rest would also need to improve by at least one level. One of the students expressed confusion about the standards, prompting Leon to provide clarification. He explained that in his kingdom, knights are categorized into 5 levels. Firstly, there are the knight-errants, who have yet to be appointed. Then come the kingdom knights, who have proven themselves and received appointments. Following them are the war knights, who command these knights. The next level is that of the mission knights, who embark on quests in search of divine purpose and willingly abandon all worldly attachments. Leon emphasized that those aspiring to become mission knights must be prepared to wander for decades in pursuit of their quests. Leon revealed that he himself had embarked on such a journey and had received and completed a quest from goddess Ariana. This was how he became a Grail Knight. When questioned if a Grail Knight was the highest level, Leon clarified that there was a title beyond that, Grail Guardian. This title was bestowed upon a single Grail Knight who had succeeded the King of the Lionheart. Attempting to attain this title effectively meant challenging Leon's kingship. Leon advised them to keep in mind that any challenger would be killed on the spot. He emphasized that this was the only opportunity they would have to challenge him, as his power had been weakened and he was now more akin to a Grail Knight. However, the group found it difficult to comprehend how this could be considered weaker. When Kim Jae-hyuk asked His Majesty how strong a Grail Knight truly was, Leon responded by saying, "The strength of a Grail Knight. It will be hard for you to grasp." A few days after her encounter with Geovric, Wang Yunhe woke up feeling as though her head was going to explode. Confused, she wondered why she had been unconscious and couldn't recall anything. Moments later, someone came to check on her. It was Hildur, the shaman of the Woodsling tribe. Hildur referred to Yunhe as hero, which surprised her. Hildur explained that she and her comrades were seen as defenders against the kingdom's ruthless troops by the Woodsling tribe. A few moments later, Wang Jiamchul arrived, teasing his sister for still being among the living. Hildur welcomed Jiamchul back, acknowledging that he had managed to shake off the enemy. Yunhe inquired about what Jiamchul meant by shaking them off, prompting them to question how much she remembered. She recalled the pulverized ground and somehow managing to escape, but she had lost an entire day's worth of memories. Jiamchul reassured her, saying that it was understandable given the circumstances. After the spell failed, they had somehow managed to escape. Jiamchul explained that while some of the enemies were just foot soldiers, it was tough for them to pursue. However, the real challenge came from that relentless monster. It chased them relentlessly until the Woodsling tribe intervened and helped them. Jiamchul then revealed to Yunhe that she had been hit with a hammer while fighting that creature. He emphasized that she should be grateful, as she had been teetering on death's edge for 2 days, and it was Hildur who had ultimately saved her. Yunhe was taken aback by this revelation. She then inquired about the whereabouts of their healers during that time. Jiamchul explained that their healers couldn't perform their duties for some reason. Hildur elaborated, revealing that Geovric, the Grail Knight, had the ability to curse others, preventing them from healing their wounds. He wielded the powers of recovery and regeneration in the opposite manner. Hildur then showed Yunhe the mark on her back, explaining that she had imprinted this spell on Yunhe to aid in her recovery. These markings were instrumental in her healing process. It was a unique skill of the local tribes, with each marking having a specific effect. The Wang siblings were amazed by this revelation. Jiamchul then asked his sister if she could stand, as everyone was going to gather for a meeting. In the other room, everyone gathered for a meeting. Woodsling tribal chief, Beldi, began by recounting the years of suffering at the hands of the Crown's army, who had branded them as heretics. He described how their comrades had been skinned and executed in gruesome ways, and how they had stood their ground and resisted. Despite their efforts, 3 of their tribes had been annihilated. Eventually, they turned to the gods for help, and in response, the hunters, whom they referred to as heroes, answered their call. Jiamchul admitted that Geovrik was incredibly powerful. The hunters had 3 S-class hunters and a 150-person raid team, yet they still struggled against him. Hildur explained to them that Geovrik possessed armor capable of withstanding the charge of a giant bull and regenerative abilities that could heal even charred flesh. Furthermore, his army gained a similar boon as long as he remained alive. The hunters noted that the only thing that seemed to work on Geovrik was Yunhe's vambrace, as it was specifically designed for armor penetration. Yunhe contemplated whether they should acquire items with armor-piercing capabilities, but Hildur was unfamiliar with such items. Yunhe explained to her that armor-piercing items were those that ignored defense. Once Hildur understood what she meant, she suggested that their tribe's molar markings might have a similar effect. Mazer's molar marking increased the armor penetration by 35% and enhanced strength and endurance by 20%. Li Yongwen was amazed and believed that with this enhancement, they stood a chance against the monstrous Geovrik. With preparations seemingly complete, Chief Beldi implored the heroes to save them. He also expressed the Woodsling tribe's willingness to assist them in any way possible. At June Ranch, located on Jeju Island, after conducting basic tests and training for the academy cadets, Leon took them to the ranch. This was the first time Kim Jae-hyuk had seen a real horse. Leon explained to them that for a knight, a horse is a lifelong companion. It's crucial to bond with your horse and move as one. He then instructed them to approach a horse they liked, attempt to connect with it, and then ride. Moments later, Queen Beatrice arrived with her maid, Han Hari. Leon expressed his gratitude to the queen for agreeing to meet with him on such short notice. He then asked the queen to have the honor of assisting a noble lady like herself. As she observed them, Han Hari could only think of 3 dots. At the center of the ranch, they surveyed the horses, finding them to be quite decent. Leon asked the queen if she would care for a ride, prompting her to request a recommendation. Leon then suggested the black steed horse nearby. He also instructed Han Hari to choose one. While Han Hari gazed at the white horse, Leon recommended the yellow horse, describing it as sturdy and muscular. Feeling somewhat disheartened, Han Hari had no choice but to agree. However, as she approached the horse, she couldn't help but find it adorable up close. Leon instantly remembered the queen and nudged Han Hari, telling her to move aside. He then asked the queen for permission to assist her, while Han Hari couldn't help but feel that Leon was being rather mean. Leon proceeded to assist the queen in riding the horse, while Han Hari's hair was unexpectedly bitten by the yellow horse. A few moments later, Kim Jinsu arrived, addressing Leon as Your Majesty. When Leon inquired about the commotion, he was informed that there was an emergency call from the association president, Oh Kang-hyuk. Oh Kang-hyuk expressed his desire to request Leon's assistance, as it appeared there would be a dungeon break soon. Leon responded by stating that it wasn't his responsibility to clean up their messes. However, Oh Kang-hyuk continued, suggesting that this might pique Leon's interest. He mentioned the involvement of the goddess of life and abundance, revealing that the one claiming to be that knight was the gate's field boss. And that concludes the latest chapter of our story. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated for the next chapters. Thank you so much for watching.